What's going on to all the beautiful, sexy people out there? We are live here for NXT Halloween Havoc. That's right, we're covering everything NXT, and we're even going to cover a little bit of TNA Bound for Glory, hashtag Bound for Havoc, as the one, the only Spaz Phoenix would say. And look at that, we've got him here live. My man, the one, the only, Sir Spaz Phoenix. Welcome, friend.
Hey, I exist. Look at that. I'm still a disembodied floating head on your channel. What's up, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. And I'm glad once again to be on Jake's channel because it means he's doing the work tonight, and I feel lazy.
Hey, you know what? I say something, you say something, but we get that. They don't. Point being, tonight...
Behind the curtain shit.
Right, tonight... They entertained me, but it felt more sports entertainment than NXT entertainment.
Yeah, 100%.
Certainly not their best outing that they've had entirely. Not the worst either. I'm not sitting here upset by any means, but I wasn't completely blown away. There was a few things that I was really expecting to maybe feel a little bit bigger than they were presented. And that ambulance match wasn't bad, but that certainly stands out as something falling flat. And even the Kalani Jordan match, the crowd really wasn't... I mean, the crowd was great all night, but it was hard to get them interested until Fallon came out. So, unfortunately, I noticed that kind of stood out to me more than anything, that... less than stellar NXT feel, but overall, the creme de la creme to me was that women's tag match. That felt larger than life. That felt like a big deal, and I like that Delta, now Zarya, is threatening everyone in the division. Yeah. You know, she's literally making her statement known that I'm coming to kill you all, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is going to go back to another pod we did a while ago, but I really do think the whole conversation, and we had it back at Bad Blood, where you just think like, oh, it doesn't matter when a match happens. If I'm looking forward to a match, then that's what matters. We're really starting to notice some stuff that should have been the main event not being the main event, and not ruining the show, but throwing off the vibe of the show. The fact that All-Star Women's Tag was the second match of the night really threw the vibe of the rest of the show off, in my opinion. Not to take anything away from the performers, obviously. Even, as you said, the ambulance match kind of fell flat, but a good effort from both of those guys still, especially
Absolutely.
When we see how it ended at the end. Solid choice to open it up, though. The tables, ladders, and scares match.
Yeah, at first I was like, I don't know how, but then I warmed up to it more, and then I'm like, all right, once we got into the match and I realized how insatiably thirsty my bloodlust was from these two. I liked the involvement of the family. That, certainly should have been a factor, honestly. And what it does is it makes the family look strong as a unit, and it protects Obafemi as this monster, because he needed multiple people to defeat him. But that's what you're getting with the Don. He's got his family members there, so they're a threat equal to, him as well. And he still was the one to get the the nice little power slam to seal the deal and get the 3 count. But I like the title defense here. The match had, like I said, a lot of bloodlust, a lot of great moments, a lot of good false finishes as well. There was one point in time where Obafemi convinced me that he had this back, and I thought he might have won, but that's when we saw the whole, crowbar spot and, with Rizzo, so...
I think the crowbar spot initially of I've tucked away a crowbar, but oh wait, no, Oba knew I was going to tuck away the crowbar, and he took it to the other side. I thought that was a little bit of clever booking. I think they know that they can play with this, as nobody's really the babyface. I mean, Tony D, like, everybody loves him, but he's like a mafia guy at the end of the day. And I mean, Obafemi's just the monster, so neither one of them really has to be the good. If Obafemi was trying to be a good guy by any stretch of the imagination, I think he would have just taken the weapon and tossed it rather than saving it for himself.
Yeah.
I do like the family getting involved. I knew that was going to be a thing. You weren't going to take this big monster that you can't really kill with anybody and use like 2 or 3 people. The Riz getting out there, I thought was going to get into that stuff we were leaning into last week with maybe Nikita Lyons, which a lot of people don't like, apparently.
Yeah,
but that didn't happen either. It was a setup for that huge spear through the ropes, through the ladder spot, which is not the type of spot you would expect from somebody like a Tony D. That would be more of a Wesley Javon Evans.
Yeah, you're figuring
type of
cruiserweight, not big mafia don.
The spot for me, we're going to talk about a match in the Bound for Glory card where I remember the entire match for one spot as well. But for this match here, little preview for things to come, I guess. But in this match here, like, I hate to say it because they weren't even technically in the match, but wasn't it Crucifino and Stacks hitting the Shatter Machine with the involvement of the chair was a pretty sweet looking spot.
That was great. Yeah.
That was the kill shot of the match. I mean, the fact that we followed it up with a slam through the table was just kind of like the cherry on the icing on the cake. But I mean, the whole family got taken out. The whole family had to get a win here. So, and there's no rules and nobody's really pretending to be a good guy. So I guess you kind of play with it that way.
Yeah, certainly. And, one of the things we're going to have to do here is kind of just address what we think about Bound for Glory, as we haven't discussed feelings at all. Excuse me. I'm not a rich enough podcaster to have a cough button. I can stick my finger at my ass and reset my soul, but that's about it. I have to mention Bound for Glory because I don't know how else for us to take it on except for that at this point, because it had more to it set up more developments, more story. Overall, that was the one that has more going forward. This showed really the only thing that's the to be continued, and it really wasn't any type of cliffhanger. It was just Zarya's debut. That was saying like, oh, she's coming to destroy people, but it didn't. It's not like I'm coming for you. No, it's just we don't have any specifics yet. So tonight was ending a lot of feuds and moving forward. And I'm fine with it.
When we get to that, I'm gonna touch on why. But I think it was a little bit more pronounced the second time we saw her, like who she's looking at. But I kind of like the idea that she's kind of overlooking everything.
Certainly.
When they did the first spot, and I guess we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but after the ladies match, when they just showed her up in the rafters looking down, and I was like, oh, they're kind of doing like a old school WCW Sting type of thing. But then I corrected myself immediately, and it might be an odd comparison, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me. But I think they're playing her off like a Thanos.
It feels like it. That's how I'm taking it. Especially the vignettes that they've shown. That's been like exactly what you're describing. You see a wasteland, destruction, apocalypse.
Oh no! Sorry. Yeah, in the imagery, like we've done the whole Furiosa thing and all that. But I'm talking about like literally in the way they're presenting her. Character.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying they're even adding to it with the vignettes. I mean, it's all kind of connecting.
It looks like she's looking down from above and letting all the little people destroy themselves, and whoever's left is all she has to deal with, rather than taking on the whole roster.
Picking at the bones, exactly.
I've got an eye on this title. I've got an eye on this title. I think if there was a women's tag match on this card and they had done it a third time, it might have been overkill, but it might have also driven the point home. It's like, I don't care where you are in the division. I'm looking at all of you. I am inevitable. Snap. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's a really cool way to look at it, because to have her come in and immediately step up to Roxanne Perez would be cool, but it would also be very like
been there, done that.
Well, it would be very wrestling, and to have an idea.
And we just did that again with both women here. Essentially, Julia got her shot, and now Stephanie will get hers. That's pretty much where they're looking to like seal the deal. And it's going to be like, oh, well, Stephanie beat her, but, Julia couldn't, so now Stephanie deserves the title shot. And how does Cora fit into all this? Are they going to turn on each other because Cora didn't save Roxanne? There's so many different story elements here. And that's what I love about it, because both teams could become volatile and turn on each other at any point in time, and it would make complete and total sense. But that doesn't have to happen for it to be good. It's not one of those scenarios like you're waiting for the breakup. It's just a possibility. So I like that there's. But
I like the idea, the all-encompassing thing, because you've got a title, you're a target. Like Fallon Henley, who we'll talk about in a second, now has a title, so she's a target. Roxanne Perez still has a title, so she's a target. I like this thing with Delta where she's sort of like on high looking at the whole roster, because it's like you could be a Brindley Reese that's really not sitting around bothering anybody, but it doesn't mean you're safe. I think that's if I'm right in the way I'm looking at that, I think that's a very cool way to approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
And she uses the F5, so that'll make her a lot of friends.
Exactly. You caught on to that right away.
Yep.
So basically, I just want to head right into Bound for Glory with you because everything tonight, not everything, but pretty much just about everything, either has some type of like contingency based upon or some element from the night before in some way. It's either someone they're going to face or they have faced, or their story elements are intertwined with TNA in some way. And I have questions about the future of things and whatnot. So
oh yeah.
Pre-show was good. I liked them.
I gotta
Hall
say
of
as well though, like I think we touched on this a little bit in one of the previews. The last time they shared a weekend, it was like a TNA B show, and it was a pretty big feeling NXT show. But Bound for Glory
that Stand and Deliver? No,
it wasn't Stand and Deliver. It was No Mercy.
It was after that. Okay, all right.
And yeah, then one of the Friday TNA shows, because that was when. Wentz won the the X Division Championship before he fought Wesley.
Yeah, and we were unsure if he was going to defend it on Sunday or not. That's right. You're right.
But I like that this time around it kind of flipped. The TNA not only was the TNA show was first the other weekend as well, but it was one of their proper Saturday shows. It was their WrestleMania going side by side with a very gimmicky NXT pay-per-view. So Bound for Glory got to feel like the bigger show of the weekend, which it should, as you look at it. If it was Bound for Glory and Stand and Deliver,
yeah,
they're at different points of the year, so it wouldn't happen. But like they'd be on equal footing. I don't mind Halloween Havoc being a little bit of a gimmicky show, being a little bit of a fun show.
That's how it came back as. I mean, even about with Johnny Gargano, him and Priest, that was all gimmick in the graveyard. So I mean, they in the NXT graveyard. But,
because it was a weekly episode of NXT, though,
exactly.
as well, right?
And so I like that they made this like a more cinematic, a more, larger feel than the PC, exactly is what I was going to say. But
I do like that, though, but it did grow from a elevated weekly episode, and the elevated weekly episodes are a bit smaller. They're allowed to be a little bit silly. more fun, more flexible.
Typically.
If some of them feel a little disposable, it's okay.
And I mean, it depends on how long it stays that way is the question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Halloween stuff in general isn't for everybody. So there's a lot of people that are going to be poo-pooing on this just because of that, which is obviously not us.
No,
but I mean, Bound for Glory is supposed to feel huge. It should.
We've got a big deal next weekend, and then it just keeps going from there. So it just keeps progressing. We've got the Crown Jewel, then upcoming Survivor Series, and Saturday Night Main Event, and then all the NXT things in between.
We got NXT 2300 coming up.
I know, at the famous arena for ECW. So that's going to be quite the show the week after.
And they've set up 2 matches for that already.
And as we discussed on your channel, check that off my bucket list. We went ahead and had a great time over there talking on the state of wrestling, basically about the ECW arena. We talked about a little bit of the history with you and I, addressing some things, but what we think that night's going to be like, and what other things we hope from the future of NXT, and kind of touched on a lot of future storylines as well.
Well, it sounds like we have 2 matches set up for that card already.
Yeah,
they announced in the back. What was it? Lola Vice and Jada Parker with Dawn Marie as a special guest referee. That's a nice touch. I like that. And it looks like
the very end we spun the wheel again.
And it looks like we are getting, what's it called? Trick Williams teaming up with Bully Ray to take on Ego and Ridge.
Yep.
Which is not something I thought they were going to do something with Bully Ray.
Not what I thought was going to happen.
Arena, but not like this. It's pretty cool. The wheel that we spun on the night was actually for this upcoming week's episode of NXT. So they could have saved that, but they didn't.
And Dawn Marie's the special guest referee for that Lola Vice hardcore match.
Yep.
And that's great. So
the casket match that got announced tonight for this week's episode of NXT, I kind of wish they were saving that.
I knew I was like 2 minutes ahead of you, but I literally was going to say to you, "Where the hell is Tatum? Where's this box?" And then it appeared on the TV for the segment right as I was about to message you. So I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. You'll take it as a spoiler. But it wasn't meant that way, because I was just about to ask you, what happened to this storyline? We saw Wendy Chu, what happened earlier in the night and the loss there. So we're like, come on, what are they going to do anything, or do they forget about it? But no, they addressed it after, and it was funny, and I liked it.
I mentioned it. Shout out to the guys at Wrestling for Life. I was watching their watch along before I came on with you to do this. I clocked it right when when they first start the show, they do the opening and then they have that overhead crowd shot of what the arena looks like before the first match.
Yeah.
The two things I clocked on the stage were like, yeah, there's an equipment case on the stage for no reason. That's definitely got Tatum Paxley in it, and there's a wheel there. This is where I wish they would break away, or at least have the nuts to break away from the 5-match formula, because that match, as she pops out of the box she pops out of a box to announce herself in a casket match, which I thought was a nice touch. If they had done that impromptu on the night, that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Just have Ava be like, well, we can't, like, we didn't announce a casket match for tonight. We don't even have a casket. And she just brings the equipment case back out and says, this'll do. Like, that would have been really cool.
I'm happy they addressed it.
Yeah.
Because it felt like anywhere else it wouldn't have, wouldn't have been addressed or even discussed. So it's cool to see this happen. It
ties in with they broke my heart on, I know we're going to be bouncing back and forth between Bound for Glory, but they broke my heart on Bound for Glory.
Yeah.
Thought Wendy Chu and Rosemary were going to get those tag titles. And
they broke my heart quite a few times. You and I did the predictions the other day, and I really didn't see it turning for a few of these matches. So let's go ahead and
a lot of interesting results, I will say. But what I will say, specifically about the women's tag match, is they've done this now twice. NXT and A have done this twice now, because Wesley and Zachary Wentz just about became NXT tag champions, which would have meant somebody from TNA holding an NXT belt. They didn't succeed, and then there was a turn, and then they fought each other instead.
Yeah.
Now, here's a mixed team trying to get TNA tag belts.
Yeah.
They didn't get them. They turned. They're going to face each other instead. Now, Wendy Chu and Rosemary is going to be a lot of fun.
We saw Joe Hendry not make it for the belt, when he challenged Ethan Page. I mean, that's another one right there.
That main event. Okay, let's talk about the main event, and then we can get through some other stuff. That main event was a mess.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about
not the main event, the men's world title.
That was our main event. That should have been the main event. But I see why it was not the main event. With what they did, I understand why it wasn't. Yeah. They sent the crowd home happy, like Liz said in the chat before. Shout out to Liz. Here, really quick, I'm going to give Liz her quick pop now. She was at Bad Blood. I still didn't even get to talk to her. It's been a hell of a week, but she got this great shot of Cody from the crowd. She's doing her giveaway. That's right. Halloween's coming up this week, and if you tune in on October 30th, you got to go ahead and be in that chat to win. You can go ahead and get your raffle tickets in there, so go ahead, follow the instructions. Hit her up on Twitch, so it's twitch.tv/DJAnime2016, and see if you can win some gift cards, So go ahead and beat that. Try and get some spooky cash on Halloween. But, yeah, the main event for us, I was at first was mad at myself for slightly popping to see JBL go ahead and come to the rescue a little bit, and then you're like, oh no, he attacked Hendry. God damn it. And my feelings on JBL to begin with, but
yeah,
this broke my heart in the intended way. There's heat on Nemeth, there's heat on the JBL edition. But I was more of the mind of, I hope that they're not taking the wind out of Hendry's momentum.
Fair.
Because at this point, he's lost many, many opportunities for big titles and matches. It feels like anyways, where he's just not able to seal the deal. He's this big, funny, charismatic guy that just can't get it done. And that's what the heels are saying, and they're right. And I think they're in a troubled spot because they keep throwing him out there. They're like, yeah, Joe, get a great response, and we love to see him defend, or go fight for the title. But then they forget, like, oh, yeah, we beat him. And they were so careful to protect certain people on NXT as well throughout the night. So with TNA being kind of the opposite, it was a bit, not shocking, but something I was overly mindful of. I mean, they found a way to protect Obafemi, every way but up. Yeah. And then even last night, I should say, with TNA, the first match, we'll kind of get in here as well. But, you saw Vikingo kind of selling his leg injury, which was a shoot and a work. It was a shoot because it was a real injury recently, but I guess it was not injured enough for him to compete, but it was still something that bothered him. So it was a shoot-worked injury, but still. we're kind of seeing these things of them trying to protect talent as much as they can by giving them as many outs and excuses. As where Hendry...
sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm going to say this
just
before I forget.
Say too much.
As far as what I was saying earlier with Oba and Tony, and like, here's one match that I'm going to remember for one spot. Let's talk about Vikingo coming off not the top turnbuckle, the turnbuckle post.
Yeah.
To hit a destroyer on the apron, and both of them fall to the floor.
That's what I'm saying.
They should be dead.
They absolutely should be. And I see Vikingo's one of the guys that does he do a karate, and I don't mind it because he is trained in Taekwondo. He's a black belt, I believe, in a couple of different, and he's just
not
very
making
impressive.
A mockery of it.
Exactly. He reminds me of a less angry Steve Blackman and white Steve, non-white, I should say. But here, when he went and did that kickflip off Bailey and then hit him with the tiger feint, and I was like, just some of the stuff. See, that's the kind of lucha that I can get behind, where it's not obvious cooperation. They have a few moments where they did do some flips here, where they did the hand holding, but it wasn't really much of that. You saw, a crazy Indian deathlock on the injured leg, and their repeated mafia kicks, and like he was just going for it, and all of a sudden the shooting star press comes down and misses. And did you see how hard he hit the ring on that one? That was a crash.
It's one of those things, and bias comes into it because I've seen Mike Bailey in person quite a bit. I don't know how the wrestlers that do it with no shoes, I don't know how they're not constantly like fucking up their ankles, fucking up their feet, breaking toes.
I don't get it either.
I don't get it. You see when it comes to this match, did you notice the production snafu later on in the night when they were previewing this week's episode of TNA? They're like, "Oh, we're gonna hear from our brand new X Division champion Vikingo," and everybody on Twitter and everywhere else went, "What?"
Yeah.
What? You say what now?
You did something a little bit wrong there, because I thought he hit him with the Meteorine superplex and basically destroyed his brain, and that's how Bailey retained. But okay, hey, all right.
Yeah, the ultimate, I will say from Mike Bailey as well, the Ultimo weapon is disgusting, where he does the backflip into the knee drop onto the back.
I saw on Twitter too, all these names are Final Fantasy finishers and moves from like Final Fantasy VII and stuff like that. Well, so it's all video game references.
His main finisher is the Flamingo driver. So.
Yeah, so it's all Final. I was never a big Final Fantasy person. I was never gigantic into RPGs, but
I don't know. Whenever somebody tells me it's a gaming reference, then it's just cool. Somebody out there that's a gamer is going to appreciate that. It's the same way I look at the New Day stuff, same way I look at the Kenny Omega stuff.
I just like when you have subtle references, but it's not being shoved down your throat. Like, oh, I'll name it something, but it's not going to become my identity,
I mean, it's the same thing if somebody comes out and does like a comic book reference. If somebody doesn't give a shit about comics, it's not for them, but maybe it's for the next guy or for the next guy.
Think of everything you can reference nowadays.
Maybe I'm becoming a softie in my old age. I'm like, it's not for me, but it's for somebody with references, with actual like people and their behavior and whatever. Obviously, it's a different story.
We saw how many Ghostbuster references yesterday as well.
Yeah, the Cardona during.
I forever call him Ryder in my head. You always gonna have to correct me with that, but
yeah.
So Mike Bailey, Vikingo, good match. Bailey defends and retains. Then I
didn't have to think about it too much. That was the other thing about it being kind of an exhibition. I'll say when we talked about a couple of weeks ago, they're all kind of bad, but the really, really bad episode of Dynamite that I didn't even watch because it was up against NXT.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, but I heard that there was a really decent like lucha match with Hologram and somebody. And it's like, do I care? No, but it's like, okay, I'll turn my brain off and I'll watch some cool flippy shit.
Well, look at that jar. Thank you for letting me know that. He said Vikingo got injured at the taping tonight and had to be stretchered out. Oh, God.
Yikes.
He can't catch a break unless it's a literal one. He's like me.
Oh.
Liz, your name is DJ Anime, and you're a Final Fantasy fan? No shit. I mean, that's shocking. No, Liz plays all RPGs again, so there's her quick little,
Hi, Liz.
power
I'm
back
kind of trying to watch your chat as well to see that I don't miss an over-the-top hello that would just go right over my head.
Exactly.
So
but
for anybody watching in the chat, I Hello? I'm
We
not used to.
appreciate.
I'm not used to doing live shit, so I'm not used to paying attention to the chat. But
I'm dragging you to
hello.
my neck of the woods now.
Yeah.
So we had Spitfire, Jody Threat, Danny Luna taking on Wendy Chu and Rosemary, and this match was a sloppy mess at times. It just seemed like they couldn't really sync up. And then Rosemary, I get what she psychologically was going for, but for her to refuse to win the titles at a visual 3 count by breaking up the pinfall, and then to later turn on her partner made even less sense. Like, I didn't like what they did here. I'm okay with Wendy Chu going to have the casket match, and I'm glad that storyline's not avoided. That, get her over there. But feels like Rosemary Wendy Chu is done. They kind of beat them enough.
I don't think it'll be done. I think there'll be a lashing out from Wendy Chu for the turn, and then they'll have
We'll have them have them.
somewhere.
I'm saying done as a team. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that gets a free pass from me. I like Rosemary. Wendy Chu is a more minor version. I've liked Rosemary for a long time. I liked Rosemary back in the Decay. It is.
I get your point. I try not
great.
to give it a pass though, because I do like it, but it's like, fuck me, this should have been better, because Rosemary can do so much better.
Yeah.
And we've even seen better tag matches with them on NXT recently. So this was just, I don't know what went wrong here.
I'm not asking anybody out there to give it a free pass for not being up to snuff. I'm just saying, for myself personally, it gets a free pass. I really like Rosemary. I kind of hope Decay gets back together.
Decay would be great. I like Rosemary as well.
Steve.
But here's the thing, this crowd was dead silent in this match, because you think of all the time that they've had to really build. There's no character work. They just kind of have the matches for these two. And we know they're spooky, creepy on this side, but there really wasn't a reason besides, hey, you two are spooky, work together. Like, they could have put something together really for them, and I feel like they kind of just like, hey, we'll summon you, and that's it.
I think there was more focus on I think there was more focus on non-kayfabe stuff in this match than there was on kayfabe stuff. Yeah. They didn't get into detail on it. Apparently, Danny Luna has a lot of personal stuff going on, which why she hasn't been at a lot of the tapings recently. The rumor is after this pay-per-view, she's taking some more time off. They never get into what her personal issues are, which is absolutely her decision.
Yeah, how it should be. We don't need to know.
I mean, well, the other side of the coin is if celebrities feel like sharing their stuff.
Oh, they're absolutely
cool.
welcome to. But I'm saying they shouldn't feel pressured to. Yeah, just say I have an issue going on, and I'm
stepping
can't
away
be here. Exactly. I'm sorry.
But there was that, and the other part of it being this thing that they've hammered home, and they've teased us on both sides now. Somebody from somewhere else is going to win a belt from somewhere else, and what's that going to mean for the companies and whatever, which is a cool story, because they do have to walk through that door at some point. But between those two things, it almost felt like a foregone conclusion. It's like, oh, so they're going to do this cool thing with Rosemary and Wendy Chu. And then they didn't. And then it was just, oh, okay, so nothing's changed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Wet fart in church. But I would rather have some cool spooky shit in there, have some potential history, even though we're not going to make the history. And you know what? Sometimes it just doesn't come together on the night, and I'll try to be nice about it, but I'm not going to lie about it.
I appreciate that. So that works, and you want to be able to have it feel like it works out in some regard, but I don't know. I see it both ways, and I just wish they had a little bit more effort put into that storyline, but I see why you'd give it a pass. So
hey, look at you giving me a graphic and everything.
Yeah, I had a whole bunch of stuff. So over here we got spooky beds and cauldrons moving, and we got the Undertaker's lightning summon down here with my red light.
Oh, you're not supposed to talk about the Undertaker anymore. He interviewed the bad guy. He interviewed the Orange Man bad.
Joe Rogan finally had Trump on as well, and that's got 500 billion views, I'm sure, by now. So the crowd, at that point for TNA was quiet for that match too, so that didn't help. But it was okay overall. Then we got into Josh Alexander.
It was noticeable because they were pretty decent for most of the show, and they had a pretty sizable
that's what I'm saying. They were really good and loud for what deserved to be cheered for, and that match just really wasn't giving them enough energy. So this did, though. Alexander versus Steve Macklin. Obviously the whole standout here, these two beat the shit out of each other, but was Macklin, he got zip tied and was still able to do pretty much goddamn nearly everything in his repertoire, every move possible. He hit a bunch of crazy knees. Then he took a tombstone pile driver. He kicked out at 2 while zip-tied, did a reverse C4 backdrop, a German suplex, a headbutt, and then... he got him in the ankle lock, and he's like, he can't tap, but then he passed out. So I love that. That's because I get tired of the pass out happening so often.
I gotta say, I'm just watching the chat
hit
here. Casey is Raw Gaming and Wrestling says, never seen Spaz Phoenix live before. I don't know whether that's something I need to say you're welcome or apologize for. Thanks for watching. Thank Jake for having me, because I'm way too lazy to host live shit. I'll be completely honest.
That's what I love about being live, having the chat, having that instant reception. And then with you, we get the other side of the coin where we get to be a bit more formulaic, have time to think over and mull over our thoughts, and more of a detailed, thought-out progression. But shout out to everybody in the chat. Subscribe, please, if you haven't already. Hit the like button. Go in the description box down below. Check out Spaz's channel. Every week I'm with him at least for one podcast, sometimes 2. If you're lucky, maybe 100. But what happens during the week and how much cocaine, Red Bull we have.
Well, let's just say this week we have NXT 2300 for the following week to preview,
as well as
Crown Jewel.
Yeah, Saudi blood money. So
big bad evil Crown Jewel. They announced the Crown Jewel the blood money championship at Bad Blood. I still say that's funny.
While I have it on my mind, we're talking about the crowd, and we're talking about how just anticlimactic that women's match was, and it fell just flat. This match with Macklin, I don't think I've heard the word wiener more than when these guys were. It was Wiener Mania. They were chanting the entire time, and I don't know why the wiener chants really came out. Maybe I missed something, but the crowd was just going nuts, chanting different, wiener in different forms. You had them going nuts, like "you sick bastard" and "you sick fuck" when they get the zip ties on. They had the walking wiener chant after the backbreaker bomb. It was just like the crowd was they were into it, and they made it feel crazy as well. So this worked. And I don't know. It was a good match. I really liked the pass out angle because his hands were zip tied. I get tired of that. Yeah. That's supposed to be like a true heroic thing. Like the last person to pass out to deserve it was Brock Lesnar being, the Hell's Gate thing with flipping off the Undertaker. Yeah. That was the last time it was really. Before that, Austin. No one since then deserves it because everybody does it, and it just comes across as stupid now. And you're in so much pain from a guy tickling your asshole.
I kind of thought the same thing until I saw, actually it was earlier on today. I don't know that I buy this, but it was an interesting thing to talk about, right?
Yeah.
You can pass out from pain, you can pass out from being knocked out, or you can pass out from not being able to breathe. And somebody suggested online that the idea that his hands were the idea that his hands were behind his back for so long, if your hands are restrained or your arms are restrained in certain uncomfortable positions, how doing that much cardiac activity, that much cardiovascular stuff would just make it harder
make you pass out, because you're constricting things, and
you're breathing shallower, you're breathing not in the way that you should. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that
you're under duress and in distress.
Yes,
call 911.
Jesus
call
Christ.
911.
Oh my God, I've walked into something now.
That's American children's entertainment. They turned everything into a song.
Oh God.
This way you remembered stuff. Scruff McGruff we had, who was the crime dog. You had to send him a postcard. Chicago, Illinois, 60652. It's how they got these advertisers. They stuck it in early. They made they indoctrinated us.
We've got the best education. It's fantastic.
Anyways, I don't know. I'm always curious what you have up in Canada. Like if I just start singing jingles, which ones you actually get to pick up on? Because I do forget that you have different
most
advertisements.
Most of the content I listen to is either American or from the UK, so I don't get.
If I go, I have a structured settlement and I need cash now. What's the number?
Call JG Wentworth.
Yes,
8775
now. Glad to know that's
really
spread
terrible.
to Canada.
That's really terrible.
All right, I'll let you go on. Next match, any thoughts? Thoughts about this past one? Yeah, clarify.
There's flaws in this match.
Yes,
with Alexander. Yeah, I'm biased because I'm a fan of Alexander, and I'm becoming a big fan of Macklin, mostly because of another certain promotion that I need to check off my bucket list. It's fine, but the way they structured this was all around the zip tie, the handcuff, whatever the case may be. The referee coming to, seeing that he's handcuffed and just letting the match keep going.
Yeah.
Yes, it's dumb. Yes, it's
but
dumb.
I get that, and that didn't bother me for some reason. Like, and I'm usually the stickler.
But the thing about this was, it was just obviously certain people. Oh, it's just a ripoff of, Darby Allin. It's just a ripoff of Orange Cassidy. I could see elements of both. I don't think it's a ripoff. And it's more effective because Steve Maclin isn't doing it every other week.
But here's the thing: Macklin's also
big fucking dude.
Never mind size or anything.
Yeah.
His character has been through several changes and iterations in these past few months, even years. As where Orange Cassidy was an OG for AEW. Started there at Double or Nothing or whatever their first pay-per-view. I think it was Double or Nothing at 2019, and then from there he's been with him, Beach Break, all of it. What has he done? He's not gone and turned heel, or he has been himself since. There has been no progression. No, he didn't aspire to anything. He got a title and defended it, but nothing about his character has progressed, changed. There's no growth. There is nothing. He is the same action figure as day one. He doesn't even look any different, as where Macklin here has been through hell and back, and we've seen both sides of him.
He's just now scraping the surface of being anything that you could call a babyface.
Yeah.
He's always been like the really rough. They don't even try to pretend that they're not playing him off like Punisher a little bit.
But this is a totally different side now.
It is. But all they've done really is he's always had like sort of begrudging respect with the same hard asses as he is.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that the latest hard ass that he begrudgingly has respect for is Eric Young, who's like the heart and soul of TNA
right now. Yeah.
So to see him go into this, he's finally got new music, because his music was like that Machine Gun music for a while, and he's still got like the army fatigues and the jacket with the front towards enemy and all that kind of thing, tag 'em, bag 'em, mayhem for all. I think him, because he's just I've said this about a lot of guys that I've seen in person, so maybe it's just me, but he's a deceptively big dude. So to be restricted and to be doing the athletic shit that he was doing, as somebody who doesn't do it all the time, I like that as a challenge.
Yeah.
I like the fact that he said to the ref, no, don't cut him. Don't cut the ties or whatever. If he thinks he can beat me like this, let me show him that he's wrong. I like that as a story. I like that as a mentality from his point of view. But I'm with the people that say that doesn't mean that it makes sense as a whole.
Yeah.
But I'm going with the character and the amount of character work he did specifically in this match, and the way
it really shaped a new view of him and helped kind of reinstate viewers to reintroduce him to new people essentially.
And the way, and sort of in the opposite way, but I'm not surprised. It's just impressing me every week. Josh Alexander. Again, I think I said this to you last time I was on. When I first started going to Destiny shows, he was basically their AJ Styles.
Yeah.
He was the one that, when he won his title from Pete Dunne, I was there. Nobody, there's the whole nobody was sitting, everybody's, standing room only in the arena. But there's no guardrails in Destiny. So if you are sitting in the front row, you can lean forward and touch the ring pretty much.
Yeah.
When he was in the last couple of sequences of the match where he took that belt off of Pete Dunne, people were at the ring.
Yeah.
I don't know how safe this was.
But those ring stomp moments, I call them, where they all come to the edge of the ring.
But people were on the ring. A couple of kids were kind of dumb and kind of sitting on the edge of the ring. People were hugging the ring post. He's the kind of guy, and I was there relatively new. And within 2 shows, I was like, yeah, so this is
why he's awesome.
This is why he's awesome for one thing, but also you walk in there blankly and you realize, no, this is the guy right now. This is the guy. This is the one that everybody's decidedly behind. And then shortly after him, it was Aiden Prince. Right now, it's Gabriel Fuerza. But when I was going in there, Pete Dunne was their champion. Obviously, the match that got me to start going to Destiny was Pete Dunne versus John Morrison, which was fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
But I watched Pete Dunne carry that belt until the torch was passed to Josh Alexander. And I see him take on a very similar role in TNA. He was one of the ones at Destiny that started getting me to watch TNA again. And I see him have that same kind of thing. They, the TNA crowd already, when I started watching again, had already decided kind of the same thing. Like, this is our guy. This is our heart and soul guy.
This is who we want. Yeah, this is who we want to cheer for.
This is TNA's AJ Styles for the 20th century.
And that makes great sense, and it fits.
And the way he's gone from that to being such a dick it's almost art, man.
It's great. So
like, he's turned the fans' love into a weapon itself, no pun intended.
Absolutely. PCO, Matt Cardona, the Ghostbusters entrance was cool.
It was fun.
Slow for PCO, but it's a hardcore match. I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not crazy about hardcore matches typically. I liked when it's the truly violent that makes sense, you know, but they're doing the tacks in the mouth and, you know, all stuff we've seen before, and then PCO gets low blowed and gets a barbed wire baseball
match.
bat, and but PCO hits Cardona with a PCO salt, looked good there, and after hitting him on the thumbtacks, gets the salt, gets the win, and
PCO doesn't
he retains
know he's
the
not a
Digital
high
Media
flyer.
Championship. Yeah, I mean, like, hardcore matches don't do much for me. I was more looking forward to. Do you have anything to add for that match? Just kind of going through it quick.
I like Cardona bringing his brand of stupidity to it. Look, he took on the Ghostbuster thing 100%. He even had the barbed wire baseball bat that was painted green for Slimer.
Yeah, he killed Slimer.
That's the kind of thing where it's just like, they did some stupid shit, and the stupid shit was fun. Like I say, I don't want to be like diminutive about
those
it.
Type of matches you
like
can always see in any hardcore fed. You know, that's the problem. It wasn't something that you would be like, oh, this needs to be on pay-per-view.
But it's the opposite of what I said about the luchador match before. It's like, okay, I'm sitting down for a luchador match. We're gonna get some flips. There's probably gonna be something I haven't seen before, but really it's gonna be a bunch of gymnastic stuff. I maybe don't have to care as much about the story. Let's go. Let's watch them flip, wind them up, watch them fly.
Yeah.
This is the hardcore match version of that mentality. It's just like, and it is more specific. It used to be Abyss. Back when Abyss was still around.
For all Monster Ball matches, and PCO's undefeated now at Monsters Ball. It's his match now. You know, that's the thing. So.
But if you went back in the day and it was Abyss in any kind of match, basically you knew you were sitting down for an Abyss match.
When they had those stupid fucking the sensory deprivation chambers,
where
they put the people
deprived,
in before the matches,
and they still say they don't show it anymore, but they still say it's a Monsters Ball. They've been in captivity for 24 hours.
Yeah, I used to love that because that was the dumbest shit. That was like pure TNA gold dumb shit. You know?
But there's certain like, this is why I say every now and then there's a character in NXT that would work really well in TNA, because there's a certain flavor of stuff that fits in same way as within the WWE bubble. There's certain things that fit into the NXT mini bubble, but I don't go into it with much judgment. Like I say, back in the day, if you watched an Abyss match, you knew you were sitting down for an Abyss match. Now you have a PCO match, you're basically sitting down for a PCO match.
Yeah, same thing with Cardona, same thing, and that's not a bad thing, but you know what you signed up for. I was just maybe hoping for a little something more, but the next match gave us this in spades. Mike Santana taking on Moose. Mm-hmm. You and I did greatly dislike the system to a point of contentious hate, so I don't even really know how Moose even really got involved with them in the system. Like, it's just so I hate the whole story.
He was a main character, and then he got back up. What it was,
I'm saying, like, in the first place, I wonder how they decided him to be part of the system. Like, it just worked out.
Well, it was his thing. He basically created this out of nothing. I think it was more or less after.
See, I was catching highlights more than watching.
Well, see, myself as well, so I'm going to probably get this wrong. And anybody in the chat that knows better than
please fill us in. Cause...
Hey, Jaro2 says NXT should sign Mike Santana to the men's division. Hey, good shout.
Yeah. Well, like Jar said as well too, because a lot of the contracts are coming up end of year for TNA. So I know there's a lot of big names.
WWE's hunting and scalping and being very evil. But
even though they've already agreed, and you know what's kind of cool is that I've also heard that WWE is willing to give TNA basically performance center athletes to make their name there, then come to NXT. And I'm like, that's kind of a cool thing, too. Just go over there, be a lower established jobber or something for a little bit, and then come to NXT as a name.
That way you come to NXT and you've already got a history to play off of.
Exactly. And you have ring awareness. You know how the TV cameras work now. Maybe you can work on your promos a little bit. Like,
and you've been somewhere
That's not
other
a feeder
than WWE.
system.
And you've been
Exactly.
somewhere other than. Well, this is what I say. Like they said, I'm going to beat a dead horse here now. Oh, NXT is getting all the top stars and they're not sending anybody good over. It's because they're serving different purposes.
Exactly.
You send your main eventers over to NXT, and it basically puts TNA on the WWE platform. NXT sends their developmental talent to TNA to get different and more breadth of experience in front of a different audience, in front of a different crowd that's not in front of the same people every week. Jaro too, I do agree. It's such a women-heavy show right now, which is not a bad thing, but the men's division does need to bulk up. And when did we ever think we would need to say that?
Yeah.
But no, with Moose though,
I love the false finish at the end of this match. I that's probably the highlight for me because I thought that was it. I thought Moose won. So JDC wraps the chain and he goes and Santana ducks it and I'm like, oh shit! He gives him spin the block and then he gets hit with the goddamn spear and I'm like, that's it. 1, 2, and just as the ref came down for 3, kicked out, and I was like, and then
I do think he's done a pretty good thing because the lariat, and that's basically what spin the block is.
Yeah,
the lariat is such a big guy move, and Santana's not a small guy, but he's not a giant, and he's made that lariat explosive.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Like a clothesline from hell.
Yeah, just to finish my to preview what's going on later on, but to finish my point from earlier, like where the system came from, I believe they had Eddie Edwards, and they didn't have anything to do with him because they had done basically TNA adopted ROH during the pandemic. That's why you had Jonathan Gresham in the Pure title on TNA for so long. That's what introduced me to the Pure title rules. I actually kind of liked it at the time. But basically a couple of people left Ring of Honor and created a faction called Honor No More. And it was Eddie Edwards and it was a bunch of other people that have now gone to the ROH version that's in AEW now. I think it started out as we have Eddie Edwards. We want to do something with Eddie Edwards, but we can't do this Ring of Honor adjacent stuff anymore.
Yeah, which is bizarre.
And then Cardona was with Myers, and then Cardona got hurt while he was doing other indie stuff, and Myers needed something to do, and Alicia Edwards is with Eddie Edwards, and I think it just kind of piled on from there. I think we said it in the preview, and I'll say it again here. The idea that Moose needs backup is fucking laughable.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't feel necessary. It doesn't feel deserved because he doesn't need assistance. That's the opposite of Obafemi, Like, if the family was fighting with Obafemi, it'd be like, well, what the fuck? This guy doesn't need to be protected. He should be able to dominate everybody. You need so for him to have the numbers advantage
that's what
here,
we need. If we're going to finally kill the system, the family should put a hit on the system.
That would be great. Imagine how that match
my
goes.
God, Adriana Rizzo taking out Alicia Edwards
would be
putting her back in that neck brace, but we'll talk about that in a second.
A lot of tatas
we'll talk about that in a second.
Santana gets him, like you said, with a big clothesline and gets the victory here, the 3 count, and kind of just stands on top of him, foot in his chest, like he just, killed a bull. And and then we get into the women's match. It was pretty much like a cut for time there. I felt like they ran, things had to kind of start moving along. But
Grace and Masha?
Yeah, because it felt like they just he had no more time. They're like, right to the video package. But I feel like they were trying to catch up a little for lost time.
When they get rid of the system as well, I do want to see Moose do some shit because Moose is a giant and he's a really fun guy to watch in the ring just kill people. But he's got all these.
Has he gotten a rematch for the title since he lost it? Yes, right? At the last pay-per-view, I thought. Right?
Did he?
I don't know.
My memory's a sieve.
Someone in the chat will let us know. But Jordan Grace, Slamovich, what a match. I mean...
for wrestling, match of the night.
Absolutely agree with you there. My God, they didn't do strong style. They did smart style, where it looked strong.
Smash style.
Yes, where they hurt the hell out of each other, but it's to the point where it's like calculated. You're not just always standing there and taking forearms or fists or elbows a la Moxley. That's the stuff that drives me nuts. It was a constant building to something, So you got Masha kicking Grace with her good leg because her bad leg's killing her, and then all of a sudden she gets a spinning heel kick, and then you get this great near fall and the crowd erupts. This is wrestling. It was not this is women's wrestling. This is wrestling. And it was all right, cool moment. They just continued. Then you got that crazy tombstone Tombstone, fucking German kryptonite crash, whatever you want to call it, air raid, siren, near fall, blew me away. I mean, like, these two, larger than life, hit harder than most of the men in some instances, and delivered on all the drama. They made me believe here. We get a moment where Grace is putting Masha into her what is it, the stretch muffler, right?
Okay, yeah.
And all of a sudden, she's like, she's like, all right, we're gonna get the rope break, and then she's like, well, they made sure to put over that nobody's kicked out of Grace's finish this year, and then they kept going ahead and kind of selling that home. But then, Masha gets the hell out of the way for the Grace driver, and then she hits her with hers, and we get that big pile driver and the clean win, 1, 2, 3, and I was elated. The crowd erupted, and then you get the kind of passing of the torch moment, which made it even better. I mean, she gave her a huge hug, and I was like, damn, that was nice. I was waiting to see if they're like, oh, are they going to have Grace turn right now because she lost? I was hoping they didn't do anything like that. I will say
TNA's really good for that, when it's sort of like, this is the match, this is the end, this is the special moment that we need to underline.
Let's give them their moment, yeah.
They're very good at that, break the kayfabe for a moment. And
actually, I'll correct you right now. They became good at that, because it used to be where they did, even when Jarrett was there before Russo, but they always had that swerve crash-style booking that they were known for a long time.
There's that, but that's not...
Thank God that's not existing anymore.
That's not end of the story stuff, though, as well. Like, that's
it used to be brutal that you would just see like that. They would have had Grace turn just because they wanted to swerve you. They like a la AEW nowadays. With their heel turns. Kyle Fletcher is just gonna beat the shit out of Will because I don't need to tell you why. So But
I needed a haircut.
Your thoughts on this match? I mean, like you said, match of the night for wrestling.
I'm a big fan of both. When I was watching the match, I was really trying to ignore all the excess outside bullshit that we talked about in the preview where, oh my God, well, it's only going to go one way because WWE is about to steal Jordynne Grace and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, okay, her contract is up, so she's deciding to go to a different place, probably a bigger audience, no offense to TNA. If you're a fan of Jordynne Grace, why wouldn't you be a fan of that? If you're a fan of TNA, why wouldn't you be a fan of WWE saying, hey, this is the kind of talent that TNA brings us?
Apparently, they don't want her for NXT. They want her for main roster.
I hope so, because I'll tell you something.
They feel like she's already accomplished the NXT
and she's already
division of what
she's already
do.
been on the main roster as far as the Royal Rumble goes, right?
Exactly that, and then that from what I've heard from like an internal memo type, dealings that if you could believe what's said nowadays, I don't know if there are any actual real wrestling journalists left, but it is interesting because what was at least alluded to was her just going straight up because she's basically told her story of dominance in TNA, and what are they going to do? Repeat it in NXT? So they're going to have other things for her in place when she does if she gets hired. So.
Yeah.
But tentatively, they want to come up. What they do now, and I like, they have these like writers' powwows. So if they want to bring someone on, they want to hire someone, they want to bring them in. They have these huge creative meetings, and it's like, what does everybody think? What can we do with them? Give me your 6-month storyline. Give me your 3-week storyline. Give me and they take every possibility. And if they have things that they can sink their teeth into, then they invest more in these people about trying to procure them. And I'm like, that's a good way to at least start booking because, I mean, not every time do you need to have something creatively. You just want to get the talent. But they have enough of that. You know how many athletes they pull in all the time in the NIL program? When they go out and they're every now and again, they're seeking people that are maybe not always on the indies, but ready-made. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, they're good at talking. They're good at promos. They're good at, selling.
I think they've got a pretty good mix, right? Especially with the women.
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep segmenting it like that, but
no.
NXT, to their credit, is a really female-forward brand right now.
Absolutely.
They've got a pretty good mix of talent.
I feel like there's more of a women's show than a men's show at this point.
For sure.
And it's been that way since the 2.0 era, especially. But One of the things, I'll stake my claim here and stick my flag in this mountain, sir. Shout out to TTSSYF in the chat as well. I'm glad you guys are here hanging out with us. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Check out Spaz's channel in the description box down below. Make sure you sub over there because I join him at least minimum once a week for the State of Wrestling, sometimes twice, but we preview upcoming TNA, WWE, NXT, and rarely, every now and again, AEW.
Once a year.
Pay-per-views.
Once a year we have All In. What the fuck is this show?
And that's when I say something. But I have to stake this claim. I think Masha is one of the best current sellers.
You got me again.
I truly do. I feel like, hey, if I could pop you, then I could pop anybody. I want to go ahead and say that, though. I really feel like she's one of the best sellers they have, not just in TNA, in NXT, maybe even in WWE right now.
Who's that, Grace?
No. Masha, I think she sells so unbelievably well. She made me feel like her leg was going to become gangrenous and fall off. Like she was going to die. She was in so much pain at one point.
Well, she managed to sell. Like she's been there a while.
Like, yeah.
No, she. From a story perspective, she was able to sell that she didn't speak English until about a month ago.
Yeah, that as well.
So everything, all the character that she's done is with her body language and with her face and with yelling in Russian, but like still getting, it's like Nakamura delivering a promo. Like you don't have to speak Japanese to know that I'm pissed off, I'm coming to kick your ass type of thing. And then she spoke like perfect English and everybody went, what the fuck? And it was like a non-comedy version of the Kofi Kingston thing. Aren't you Jamaican?
Yep.
But I'm so glad you mentioned like her potentially going straight to the main roster and I really want to get away from this because this kind of leans on the idea that WWE might be poaching from TNA. I would love to see Masha in NXT.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's
especially
one
now with some of the powerhouses
I
they've
hope
got
to
there
see
now.
in NXT. Yeah, she's one. I say bring them to NXT, bring her to NXT, but Grace bring straight to the main roster.
And I mean, if you want to tag team her and Killer Kelly as MK Ultra,
yeah. How much longer does even Roxanne and Cora Jade have? You know, that's a question too. Are they going to be called up eventually as well?
Roxy will be called up. Cora Jade, I think, will stick around.
I think she needs a little more seasoning, but yeah. Anything else to say about the Jordan Grace match before we just
to comment on the Cora Jade thing. I think they might do a thing with her and Roxanne Perez, be like, I'm done with this place. It's all yours. I taught you everything you need to know. Now go on and own it. And then she gets her ass kicked by Zarya and Stephanie Vacour and Julia and maybe Masha Slamovich.
And just get destroyed by everybody.
But it's okay. She'll land safely and cushionedly.
Yeah.
What?
We talked before. Joe Hendry losing. I like the way Frankie Kazarian played into this. He was a good special ref, and then him trying to cash in and JBL coming out and destroying him was a great moment. And then JBL, of course, attacks Hendry. I just wish that the attack from JBL led to the pinfall quicker because they tried to sell like, oh, Joe, he could survive. He came out of it. Let's and then he ends up getting hit again and taken out by a super kick in a danger zone. So it was like,
I can't defend the end of this match. I really can't.
I was so disenfranchised, like I said, with it because it's like you're killing my hype for him now. That's the problem. I really feel like this is the same like when the Acclaim didn't get the tag title win at All Out. This has the same thing. Oh, we gave it to him at Grand Slam. Yeah, and the crowd still popped, but they didn't go to 100. They went to 70. And I think you're just ruining Joe Hendry's rise. He's lost so many times now, and his faults or not. This one, it seemed like more him. Even though JBL attacked him, he still came out of it, kicked out, and had a chance. So I wish the attack kind of saved him from, while he lost. It gave him more of an out, but it didn't. So the ending to this was a big miss to me, and this turned me off from Namath as well as Hendry, unfortunately, quite a bit. So.
I'll say JBL achieved something here that shouldn't be possible. In the span of about 30 seconds, he got a cheer, a boo, and a confused huh.
Yeah.
Because he... How did it go?
He took out Kazarian.
Because we should say Kazarian won the Call Your Shot gauntlet when it came down to just him and Rhino. And in I think an intentional anticlimax.
That's why I pay you $0 big bucks. See, you remember stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it was it was on the kickoff. I like the call your shot gauntlet. It's a neat idea. A couple of the ladies got in there as well. It got down to Rhino, who had just given his Hall of Fame speech. So what's the cheapest Healy way to get over on the guy that just went into the Hall of Fame? Quick shot in the pills, quick roll up, get the call your shot thing, come out for the main event with your custom referee shirt on. We saw this in NXT not too long ago. Cash in your trophy in the middle of the match, call down another referee, which I don't think made sense in the sense that he was a referee. He could have cashed in, been the referee, and counted his own 3 count. I think for the obnoxious character that he's playing right now, I think you could have done that.
If Joe lost because of that, then I would have been like, okay, they did something new, creative. Cool, yeah. He cashed in, he called his shot, and he's the ref.
Here's the thing.
That's a new one.
We still don't.
That's great. That's probably one of the greatest booking things you've said in a while. Holy shit, that's great. I don't want to undersell that. That was awesome.
But here's the thing. It would still be shit, but it would be intentional.
No, I think to count your own pinfall.
Yes,
no one's done that.
In the story, though, the story, it would be a shitty thing to do.
It would be.
As the story writer, it's a beautiful thing, but in the story, it's a shitty thing to do. But here's the thing, though.
That got me. I would.
He went to cash in and call in another referee to count the pinfall.
Yeah.
JBL comes out of the crowd looking like friggin' Undertaker on his last ride. I don't know what's going on there with his weird jacket. With his
corporate Undertaker.
With his weird jacket that's open at the back.
Yeah, the duster.
It looks like it has wings on it or whatever. He comes in, he clotheslines Kazarian.
Paints his face white, he could be 7, you know?
Oh, my God.
Pretty much got the attire.
Don't do it. But he clotheslines Kazarian. Here, you got to follow me through here for a second. He clotheslines Kazarian, and everybody kind of went, wait a minute. Is JBL going to be a face? And you got a JBL chant, and I thought that would wind you up. And then immediately he clotheslines Joe Hendry on the outside, so he gets a boo.
Yeah.
But then he clotheslines Nemeth's brother on the outside as well, so he's saying, fuck you, Kazarian, fuck you, Joe.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Nemeth as well.
And now I'm not on your side, Nemeth, because I attacked your brother. So do you think he attacked his brother just because, hey, I'm going to do it, and that's going to take the heat off of us, and the people are going to believe, like, hey, we didn't really, but Ryan got attacked just to sell that we're not together as a team. Do you think it's going to be that kind of a swerve thing, or do you think JBL aligns with nobody?
Or you play up Nemeth used his brother as a sacrificial lamb to make it look like he wasn't on his side. That's what I'm saying,
yeah.
But then what do you do after that? You set up Nemeth and his brother. Nemeth's little brother only works.
Well, no, his brother would be in on it, so that's what I'm saying. They allowed he took the hit, so it would look like his brother. I didn't have anything to do with the finish.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was him all along, Austin. That kind of thing, and he reveals himself as the mastermind. But
I don't know. But then they could come out and say, "Oh, well, you were about to cheer me when you thought I was only out there to take out Kazarian."
Yeah.
Remember when it was who did the double Money in the Bank? I think it was Punk, and he cashed in on Edge and he got cheered. And then the next time he cashed in, it was on Jeff Hardy and he got booed.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so when I cash in on Jeff, it's a bad thing, eh? You play up something like that, but it was a mess. And I didn't want a special referee in there to begin with.
I know.
And the call your shot thing was messy. And his brother, if they had
the big ass trophy he's trying to hand somebody to cash in, like it just looked silly, but
he tried twice too. Joe Hendry was like, no, put that down. I thought he was going to throw the trophy out into the crowd. And I'm like, don't do that. That's going to go bad.
Yeah, exactly. I thought he was going to smash it, but I don't know. Santino was backstage too, and like he didn't get involved at all. So like you're there, you're witnessing all this shit go down, and I don't know. It felt very cheap, and I don't want to see them run it back and now he wins. Like. No. That doesn't do it for me here. So I don't know what they're going to do with Hendry, but I am a little disillusioned.
Didn't they do that with Goldberg?
Yeah.
They where he was in the Elimination Chamber and he got killed by Triple H, and then they're like, oh, no, don't worry, you're going to get to beat him in a month.
Well, yeah, no, it was SummerSlam, I think he didn't beat him at, and then he beat him at the Chamber, maybe. I don't know. I think one of us is somewhere onto something. And then, of course, we had the Full Metal Mayhem match, all Metal Alchemy. We're going to have tables and ladders and chairs and stairs and C4 and whatever other explosives we can sneak in here.
You can't bring me down on this.
I loved it.
You can't bring me down.
They destroyed the system.
It looked like Cosmic Golf.
They had Jeff Hardy got the spray paint and go nuts on every bit of wood that was out there beforehand, so it looked like his little playground. The crowd chanting Edge's bitch was a great moment. That made me cackle out loud.
That was the other thing. Before any of the bullshit happened in the Nemeth match, randomly there was a fuck Ohio call in the match.
Yeah, even fuck the system made you smile, I'm sure.
Fuck the system made me smile, but fuck the system's been a thing for a while. But like, it took me a minute to remember that Nemeth like is from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
But just randomly like fuck Ohio chants in the crowd was good. Like I said, I'm usually listening to the Wrestling for Life guys, so I'm not necessarily catching every chant there is and every commentary call there is.
Yeah.
But like it was noticeable, and the crowd got up for what they were excited for.
But Jeff again climbed up, and this is the best the Hardys have looked since they have left WWE. I'm sorry, this is the best they have looked yet. They're both fit, healthy, skinny. They have abs again and muscles. Like even Matt looks slender, but they don't. Jeff for a while looked bloated and sickly from all the drugs and drinking. He doesn't. They both looked healthy and limber. They weren't like limping. Like I remember in AEW that last match that he had, Jeff was like barely able to limp around the ring at one point. It was just that was an embarrassment and felt like I don't want to see the Hardys. They need to retire. Now I saw them tonight and I'm like, fuck yeah, they're the tag champs. Fight forever. That's the difference of booking people. That's why we stress this. That's why I'm so upset with AEW.
And you know what? I knew you were going to go in the AEW direction, right? But like,
it's not just AEW. But
I know. I mean, they haven't always treated them great in WWE either. They've had big like lulls in their booking there as well.
But I think they're on their way back soon.
I
think they're going to do a Hall of Fame thing with them, and that's
they're going to do a Hall of
there.
Fame thing. They are being. I think they're going to get offered like what are they called now? Nostalgia contracts.
Yeah.
So that you could use them for like like even if they stay in TNA, like get them for like merchandising, put them in a couple of video games.
A lot of people have those nostalgia legend type contracts. And
I do like the fact that they're
thing.
called nostalgia contracts now. I think we talked about it before.
Instead of doing legend,
Legends deals, because everybody and their mother comes out and says, "Oh, so and so is not a legend. I'm going to go burn down Summer Rae's house."
So speaking of legend, Jeff Hardy, he stepped out on that story high ladder and hit one hell of a swanton, and he gave all of it to Myers. He literally gave all of it to Myers here. He was like, I am using you as the crash pad, and you are going to cushion my blow, and he landed on that poor man's sternum.
I am not going to lie. I don't do the whole like concern trolling thing that most people do. When I saw that one spot and he fell and he landed on one table broke, the other one didn't, and it pushed him backwards a little bit. He definitely cracked his head on the bottom rung of that step, and you can see him like touching his head, making sure there's nothing there. You can see the referee like talking to him again, and it's one of those like, I'm really liking that the Hardys are being Hardy Boys, but don't make me turn that off and worry if you're safe.
Alicia Edwards, coming out. Hey, that looked good, and she got a twist of fate by Hardy as well. That was fun to see Matt go ahead and take her down, of course, and
huge pop,
equal opportunity for her.
I thought that there was going to be, what's her name? Oh, chat, help me out. What's her name?
Rebby?
Rebby. There we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, his wife. Yeah. Thankfully, it wasn't. It was just him.
There being a chat, I can cheat a little bit.
So obviously, they put this on last as the main event to send the crowd home happy. The Hardy Boys are your new TNA Tag Team Champions. They defeat the System and ABC in the Full Metal Mayhem TLC match. They're celebrating that so much plunder in this match, so much attacking, the hardcore stuff. But it was fun, and it had some great nostalgia. I do like
the fact that they're building this, like, I mean, the Hardy Boys have done this with several teams, like, over time, but they're building this, like, mentor-protege type friendship with them and ABC as well.
Gun to my head, I give this, like, a 6.5.
The whole show?
Yeah, maybe a 7 around there. I mean,
huge pop. Here's the thing, right? Like
the Hendry thing really hurt me. So that was
I don't want to do. Miss. I hate doing the ratings thing because I always feel really cliche when I'm doing it. Because it's one of those things with TNA. The results, they always manage to surprise me with something. The Macklin thing, I thought it was going to be a matter of like the Northern Armory just coming in and there being a 3-on-1 and maybe maybe Eric Young and Jonathan Gresham come out to help him out, and it turns into a 6-man tag because those are other people that have had issues with them.
Yeah.
Instead, they go the zip tie route and him fighting a fight with no arms.
But I'm happy with that because that was kind of original. That was a cool way to handle things.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like,
yeah. So some of the
we
things
can watch
worked.
WWE. A lot of WWE stuff right now is happening the way we predict it to happen, and they're proving that that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's still
like if you're predicting stuff that makes sense and the stuff that makes sense happens, then it's still good.
It's a positive.
TNA is going the other way, and they're going to throw a couple of surprises in there. I really wanted to see Wendy Chu make the crossover history, and that didn't quite happen.
Yeah, that match was a huge disappointment too. I'm sorry, I just could not get behind it. I know you wanted to try and excuse some of it, which I get, but they didn't click, and I was expecting more, especially from Rosemary. And then also, the title match was it wasn't even a good match. Really,
we didn't mention, and what the crowd was like surprisingly up for.
Yeah.
Was the ladies tag match on the pre-show.
Oh, the Ash and Heather by Elegance.
Ash and Heather by Elegance taking on Xia Brookside and Brynlee Reese.
From NXT.
From NXT. And it didn't set the world on fire, but what took me was how much it's technically, I guess you could say, the opening match. So there's a bit of that as well. But surprisingly into that match, Brynlee Reese and Xia Brookside made for a really feel-good, like, pure Snow White babyface team. The whole by Elegance thing.
I was happy to hear that we won Xia chat from a TNA crowd. Like that was cool. I know it's the same fans and stuff, but it's like you're getting that.
Also,
I don't know, that joy of the kickoff
Xia Li
acceptance.
and Tasha Steelz mixing it up with the boys in the gauntlet because TNA does that stuff. Always really cool to see, and like not specifically them, but just in general, I always have to tip my cap to.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who plays their concierge, her Luther Reigns spot, but
the one with Ash by Elegance?
Yeah.
That's George Iceman.
That is Iceman? Okay.
That's Iceman. That's the guy that used to run Destiny.
Okay, that's who you're talking about. All right, I wasn't positive, and I was like, I thought so, but I was confused.
I have talked to he was at the Destiny show just the other week where I saw Hammerstone kick off Trent Seven's head.
Yeah.
And I just told him, I'm like, because he's the nicest dude. And it's not like, I'll pretend this guy is my best friend or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I've talked to him enough times at the Destiny shows, and I told him like point blank, because he sees me on Twitter, because I try to tip my hat to them because I think what he does is great. And he, I see the kind words on Twitter, thanks very much. And I'm like, do you know how hard it is for me to see you as a heel?
Yeah.
When I know you're like one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Exactly. It's always funny how that works. But like McIntyre too is just like such a stand-up guy, but you can believe him to be such a prick because he makes it easy. So, gun to your head, what do you give this? We'll head into NXT obviously, but we've been making people wait long enough.
Here's the thing, like, I'm gonna give it an 8 and a 2 because there's some stuff that fell off and there's some stuff that was amazing. And the Hardy Boys are the tag team champions.
Yeah.
And I got to see the Hardy compound in the Impact Zone pretty much. The Hardy canvas.
Absolutely.
The Hardy everything coming down the rings and everything, and
Hardys were great.
They
great nostalgia pop and great smile for them to win. It was a feel good moment. I see why they made that the main event.
I feel like watching them. Obviously, I wouldn't speak for the Hardys because I don't know them, but I feel like they're more at home in TNA than even when they come to WWE.
I can understand that,
and I think they
will get the bigger recognition pop from WWE, obviously.
For sure.
But I get your point.
TNA treats them as well as but they treat them as well as I see them. So there's a little bit of me that's like, no, just leave them in TNA.
Yeah.
If they want to be TNA stars in NXT for a night, maybe at the ECW arena show, then cool. But have the Hardys come to NXT as TNA stars.
I'm telling you, I'm hearing so much about this Hall of Fame dual induction because they wanted Jeff to do it, and he said, I won't do it without my brother, and Matt was in AEW. And now they're out of there, and they kept saying, well, I'd like to get both of them as like the highlight. The main event of the Hall of Fame this year would be the Hardy Boys, and we'll induct both of them separate but as a unit, which I thought was cool. So they're going to be like the Hardys, and then they go into the Hall of Fame as Matt and Jeff Hardy. So basically they go in twice.
You hear Batista's thing of, I'm never going to go into their Hall of Fame because that place still reeks of Vince.
Yeah, he's being a virtue signaling douchebag that looks so tiny now. It's so hard to believe that's him. He has this frail, gray, skinny neck and all this gray hair, beard that's against him, and it's just
here's
this
the
tiny,
I'll
tiny
give him,
man. And it's
I'll
weird.
give him a little bit of a like I saw him in an interview way before all the political crap came out, and he said, like, not to the degree that he is now, but he was intentionally downsizing because he didn't want to get roles that were just like, oh, here I'm a big jock, or I'm a big bodyguard, or I'm a big whatever. And I could see that as a logical thing, but now he looks like he's a balloon and somebody came and popped him.
Yeah.
And he's walking around making a lot of things.
I didn't expect
he has no balls.
Yeah, he's not going to walk around and have 289 pounds of muscle on each arm. I understand that, but
Yeah.
it was just a very drastic look. But here we go. NXT tonight, Halloween Havoc results. I'm sorry, folks. We babbled on long enough about TNA. I knew you and I were never going to do a quick review of TNA, but
sorry. Before we get into NXT, and I don't want to hijack your show, but we just talked about we just talked about a great tag team moment that capped off TNA.
Yes.
I do want to touch on a great tag team moment that happened on Friday.
Yes, please.
We told, and I said this in another chat, and I got a bunch of responses, positive and negative, from the chat that I was in at the time.
You called.
SmackDown on Friday told more story in 30 minutes than AEW has told in 5 years.
It was incredible. Jay got screwed over for his title, so now he's coming back to screw you for yours. You figure, simple as it. No, it was so much more than that. With the build-up of Motor City Machine Guns and the involvement of Roman and everything with the solo, angle of him taking on Roman's side, it's just so well done.
Jimmy and Jay come together. Yep. Neither one of them are super close to Roman yet because there's still work to be done.
But the Usos have reunited.
They haven't reached
the cheer they got was insane. Milo apparently is excited as well for the Usos, but...
And what I love is the people that are immediately coming to shit on it that are like, oh, doesn't it make like Motor City Machine Guns look like it's a real cheap first title win? And it's like, no, they did two matches back to back against two really good teams.
Exactly. And they told the story of these guys coming in, dream of being tag champs, like worked for it forever. Like now they're finally getting their opportunity because they made it their opportunity. Two badass matches, hell of a showing. And then they get to this and it's like, oh, it's on.
And the unfortunate bit of it is in the storytelling aftermath, what's going to get lost in the shuffle is the great match that they had with DIY.
Yeah.
To begin with, because that was the match that the thing was sold on. And so often you see the heel come out and say, oh yeah, is that what you want? Is that what you want? Do you want a title shot? Hey crowd, do you want a title shot? And they're like, no. And then they walk away, they get the booze, and it goes to another city. But it actually happened.
Yeah. You want a title shot? Do you want a title shot? Let's do it. And I was like...
And I like the fact... And it's one of those things where we were talking about Survivor Series, and it's like, oh, what if this team has like this champion and this champion and this champion, and the other team has this champion and this champion and this champion. It's almost better if they go into Survivor Series and nobody has any belts, because that's the collateral damage of everything that's been done.
Yeah.
Let alone the fact that the Motor City Machine Guns, who are fucking awesome, and way, like, I don't want to say whatever because they probably wanted to go wherever they wanted to go, but they are way overdue for a big platform like WWE.
And to be champions. Absolutely.
And to see them walk in on week 2 and walk away with the belts is huge, because on the one hand, you serve both audiences, and this is where people, I think, lose the point of it a little bit. You serve both audiences, because if you live in the WWE bubble, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you know the journey that these guys have been on. You know that they've been everywhere. You know that they've held every belt there is to hold everywhere they've been.
And they mean more to you, but WWE did do a good job of summing them up and selling them, sir.
Well, here's the thing. Like, even if they hadn't, the one side knows that. The one side knows that this didn't happen in 2 weeks. This happened in like 20 years.
Yeah.
The other side, who I don't know how, but is seeing them for the very first time last week, is immediately being told these are guys that are going to change the tag team division in WWE.
Yeah.
And when we get the Lucha Brothers, when Tony Khan finally stops being a cockwobble,
when he doesn't want to play with his Rey Fenix action figure anymore,
they're going to tell the same story again. They're going to tell that same story again on Raw, probably, with those guys.
Spaz, imagine being that rich that you have real life action figures.
The guy's a piece of shit, man. Like, I want to be sarcastic, but the guy's just a piece of shit. If they were going anywhere else, he wouldn't have done it.
He would have done it, yeah. He wouldn't have done it, and he would have let them, you know.
And
he would have done it, meaning he would have released it, let him go, yeah. But
we didn't get a chance to talk about it in the Halloween Havoc preview. Because we touched on a lot of bullet point type stuff. You hear the new contract thing that Tony Khan is doing now because he's so butthurt about the Stephanie Vacour thing.
Yeah.
Even people that are showing up for AEW shows for a one-off on Dynamite or a one-off on a pay-per-view as an exhibition, whatever.
Have to agree.
His one-off appearance superstars have to sign a non-compete clause now.
Yep, and that's what I'm saying. They have to agree for a 90-day non-compete, as well as if they're going to be used in further storylines, and they have to sign an NDA so they won't leak any story.
I'll just say,
like, that's what you're getting off the bat.
Every single bullet that is ever, I mean, obviously other than the Vince stuff, fuck off, the Vince stuff is another conversation. Every other bullet that has been thrown at WWE, rightly or wrongly, is rightly being thrown at AEW right now and bouncing off.
Oh, certainly, so that's why I was excited for Halloween Havoc tonight. It was a good way to go ahead and certainly wrap up this weekend. Again, it was more of a... like I said, sports entertainment feel than a typical takeover NXT style, but I love the way they kicked it off. Tony D defending his title, that's right, his North American Championship against Obafemi. I really, really like this match. Great way to start the show hot. They fought all over ringside, and I love the way the match kicked off. So Tony D cuts off what's his name, Mike Rome, for introductions, and he's like, you already know who we are, and just kind of like starts the attack. I forget the line he said there, something along those lines. He's like, you know us, and just starts attacking Obafemi. And I'm like,
I think he said like, you know the rest.
You know the rest. That's what it was. And then he just starts attacking. And I'm like, that's what you would do in a real fight. Like, thank you. That's why I appreciated their match last time when he won the title. So that little bit of believability that's thrown in every now and again is what grabs me. Those are the things that I like to see. So a lot of good fun there. I had a good time with this match. A lot of big spots. I mean, the family got their block knocked all over here. Femi went ahead and choke slammed D'Angelo onto a chair inside the ring. That looked super painful. Then he's got, slammed Tony D onto a ladder that was leaning like way off into the corner. Then he takes a table out and he puts it in the other corner, and he drives Tony D through the table with like the ultimate shoulder block. And I'm like, oh my God! And it gave us a great near fall. But you figure he just attacked him with tables, ladders, chairs, stairs, everything in a matter of minutes, and it's like, holy shit. How Tony D is able to continue, it was like, but he grabs the crowbar, and Tony D ends up aiming to stop the crowbar with his chair. That was a cool moment. Like I said, we got the whole family getting involved. That was cool to see each one of them, go ahead and Femi was taking on everybody, but at least helped, it helped Tony D get what he needed. So Rizzo picks up the crowbar, but then Femi takes it away from her, and that's when Tony D gets up and he gets out of the zip ties that he's in, calling back to the zip ties. And that's when he gets in and just takes him through the apron and right through the ladder bridge. And Femi
love that spot.
Yeah,
I know we already went over it before, but I love
so
that
good.
spot. And it goes back to when he beat him. Was it Chicago or was it St. Louis that they had the North American? It was
St. Louis, yeah.
It goes back to that. Like, if it's just him and Oba, he gets his ass handed to him. But if it's him and the family, then it's Popeye gets his spinach, so to speak.
Yeah, because Lorenzo and Luca there, and obviously I said Rizzo, they each serve their role very well, and then Tony gets a big. No, actually, before that, doesn't he? They start hitting him with chairs, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And then that's when they go ahead and they get the shatter machine, and that's when Tony D gives him the spine buster through the table and pins him. Tony D retains his North American title. Obafemi gets the rub here in the sense of, hey, you still look strong. It took 4 people to take you down, but you still lost, and you are going to have to acknowledge that. Obafemi could be right to the Royal Rumble at this point. I don't want him to go for the world title. I think adding him into that scene is a Karrion Kross-esque problem, where you get a monster that's larger than everybody else, and then they run out of people to fight, so he's just got to relinquish the title, or vacate it and relinquish it, and go ahead and be like, oh, now I'm on the main roster, because no one can beat them. And I don't want Obafemi losing to every, Wes Lee and Joe Schmo either. So he's kind of in a weird predicament where if he doesn't have people more his size, like a Tony, to face, we're really kind of putting his character at risk here. So I'm hoping he gets called up sooner than later. What are you thinking, Spaz?
I agree with you as far as being in the main title mix. I don't think he's that long for NXT before he goes off to the main roster. I do want to see him square off with Trick before he goes to the main roster. Maybe title aside, maybe by the time Trick doesn't have a championship anymore, but I do want to see that match at some point. As far as the family goes and Tony D goes, the accusation that's been thrown at Tony D, including from myself, is he's a lot of fun. He's more character than wrestler, and that can work sometimes. But I really feel like him and the rest of the guys in the group, they go character, and then in the match, they're actively fighting against that you're more character than wrestler thing, and it's starting to show.
Because they stop showboating and start actually wrestling. And
because Stax isn't pulling his punches. Crucifino is sort of like the latest addition to the group, and he seems a little bit more subdued, but Tony D and Stax, and like I say, pulling off the
Shatter Machine.
The Shatter Machine with the chair, and like I say, the tope to the ladder spot and whatever.
Yep.
I think the guys behind these characters are still enjoying playing these characters, but they're fighting against the whole, like, we can get our shit done too. And it's been evident in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
This match tonight, it kind of punctuated a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, I agree. Hit that exclamation point and make it work. Then we had interesting choice for placement here. I see why, because what happened later. But again, Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade coming out, taking on Stephanie Vaquer. Everybody says it a little bit different, if you notice. They got Vaquer, and Vakir. So I've heard it about 4 different pronunciations. And Julia.
And Julia doesn't get a last name at all.
No, it's just Julia. Stephanie, something about her with the face paint and everything, absolutely gorgeous.
Absolute Thunder Rosa.
Yes,
vibes.
Thunder Rosa vibes. And
which is kind of funny considering there was also a coffin drop in this match, and people on X are already being very, very adult about it.
Yeah, is she a Thunder Rosa 2.0, or was she paying homage to her like others are saying? Because they did work together previously, so makes you wonder.
Wrestlers are allowed to be friends. Don't be weird.
They built up the hot tag at one point that I really enjoyed. You saw Vaquer trying to tag in Julia, and the heels just kept keeping her away, but we got the happy story in the end. Vaquer got the corkscrew dive after Julia hit the big suplex, and then they got the pin for the win. But these two looked like an absolute fucking unit. Julia and Vaquer, her and Stephanie worked well together. They were a team. There wasn't the can they coexist thing going on. This was a dream matchup and handled as it should be. Mm-hmm. People have wanted to see these two team together for a long time. We got a little taste of it on NXT, but they really showed you what they could do here. I wouldn't even hate if they held on to them from going right for the women's titles and let them go for the women's tag titles. I mean, kind of a pipe dream with how there's really not a women's tag division, but there really could be. And they're starting to...
Well, they teased it on last week's NXT when they did the thing with I keep on wanting to say Fatal Attraction, Fatal Influence, and they had their match. But more importantly, there was another match on the card that night. It was the Meta 2 taking on Damage Control, and Damage Control in the back having a stare down with these two is clearly a match they want to do
and
in the future
we'll see
as well.
At some point. And people like going back down to NXT. Funny how that works, but everybody looked like $1 million here. They all sold well. There was good heat spots from the heels. Julia got probably the most accurate and crazy looking missile drop kick on Perez. I loved that. That was so goddamn incredible. These girls are very, very fast, and nothing here was done that really, like whatever the way that they handle their finish, everything felt unique in a sense. That crazy finish that Stephanie does, it's like a spinning corkscrew, like I said, corkscrew dive.
Yeah.
I had to watch it back a couple of times because it's just like one of those things that breaks the mind because she's spinning sideways but landing this way, and it looks awesome. Like I like the way that they really enunciated the finish there and put the women over strong. I mean, so let's see what they do with Zarya next, because she, lights go out, she comes out, and Delta's here, ready to fuck people up. She's in the rafters, making her presence known, threatening the women's title and the women's division all at the same time. So what were your thoughts on this one, Spaz?
I mean, it's going to be my copy paste for these two ladies for a while. Everybody that has looked forward to seeing these two ladies that know them from, I don't know, New Japan, CMLL, wherever else they've been.
Yeah, Stardom and
yeah, it's what I say when they sign anybody. It's what I said when they signed the Gorillas of Destiny, and it's not that different. They're brand new to me, so I'm still developing my opinion of them. Other than obviously they're not brand new NIL stars.
No,
I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this in a bad way, but you've got the experienced hand in Roxanne Perez as well, and obviously Cora Jade, who's got a little bit of an experience gap from the other three. So when she was in there was a slight I like Cora Jade, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there was a slight change in gear. Like, there was like a half step of just making sure everything was okay, whereas when Roxanne Perez got back in there, nobody had to worry about anything. So it was a little bit of a gear, there was a little bit of a gear change every now and then in the match. It doesn't matter, it didn't make the match any worse.
No, certainly not.
I wish I hadn't noticed it. Do you know what I mean?
I understand that
because
entirely.
presentation wise, God, all four of them look like stars.
Yeah, they really did.
And even though they were the second
shine.
match of the night, they looked like four main eventers out there.
No, you're absolutely right.
And who was it? It was Bully Ray, and who's the other guy from Busted Open?
LaGreca, right?
Okay, is that who it is? I don't watch Busted, or I don't listen to Busted Open, so
I always forget.
I'm down for seeing Bully Ray, but I don't. It's like when people talk about.
It's Dave LaGreca, I'm pretty sure. It is. Him
okay.
And Bubba, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's like when people said, "Oh, Cornette said this," or Meltzer said this, or whatever. It's like I don't listen to any of these people.
See, I still listen to Cornette just because I enjoy him. Well, not even just that, but I've always liked Cornette. My step grandfather, like I said when I was younger, loved the Rock and Roll Express, so I would see all of those tag matches on VHS
you have the connection
over
to
and
it,
over
right?
and over. Yeah, so seeing Cornette as the chicken shit heel manager, my mama's gonna go be so mad at you, and that kind of shit, where he was just that southern twang, and then seeing him on Raw, him cutting promos against Phil Mushnick back in the day was like such a big deal because we hear his name in the tri-state area and knew about his, journalism and anti-WWF stance back then. It was so staunch and his rhetoric was so severe. He acted like wrestling was the coming of the Antichrist for children and teenagers. But shout out to Gorilla Strong. What's going on, bud?
Hey.
Glad to see you in the chat as well. That popped me big.
Kind of trying to keep an eye on the chat.
Yeah, we're working on it.
But my thing is no. The only reason I brought it up is because Bully Ray on the kick. I don't think you caught the kickoff.
I caught pieces of it, so I caught some of the.
They were talking in the crowd about the match, and they were just talking about the four girls in this match, and they dared to make the assertion that this may be the next generation four horsewomen. I said,
yeah,
maybe, yeah.
You could see something come of it. Then, speaking of advancement in storyline, Javon Evans is in the back, and he's with Cedric Alexander, and I still can't believe that's Cedric. Looks completely different just with the hair alone. But he's got more muscle, and he's like, I get why you slapped Nathan Frazier, and the reason you're getting we're getting the shot at the titles because of that. But maybe it's okay to do bad things at times. And you saw Cedric not hate that idea. It was kind of interesting that they were both kind of healing it up a little bit. So maybe these two turning heel, especially in Javon's case, follow the suit of Randy Orton and say, Randy got in your head and made you turn heel. I hear the voices. No, really, like Javon getting a chance to be heel would really test his character strength, because right now he's only over for his high-flying skill. His mic work and his overall appearance is not anything to stand out. It's really what he can do in ring at a young age that's got him over.
I've heard people say that. I don't mind Javon Evans on the mic because when he talks, he doesn't sound like he's cutting a promo. And I think being
He doesn't sound formulaic, but he sounds lost at times still, and he's very young. He's 20, and I know that.
But see, I like that because there's something a bit fake to a relatively brand new superstar not feeling new. Like I think he sounds as new as he is.
Nervousness is believability in some ways. You're saying I get that.
I think there's obviously
there's a lot of nuance there, so you're onto something.
If we go on and his work progresses and his mic work doesn't, then it's definitely a conversation to have. But I think right now, him being new and sounding new, there's a small element of genuine to that, and I don't mind it.
Yeah, Gorilla's right. He sounds unpolished and kind of raw, and that's what you get. You get a bit of the real. So,
and if he's cutting a promo with somebody who's a veteran promo person, that difference is going to contribute to the dynamic.
Okay, I think it would work better as a heel, but I also think that we haven't seen enough of this either yet. I'm not saying I don't see what you're saying. I see it there, certainly, but I think that kind of needing to grow yourself while being a heel thing could be really, really interesting as a character development tool. So
I don't want to see him go. I want to see him maybe question himself, maybe go through some.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Character
go through
development,
the trials and tribulations of the mind. Like he's got to find himself. Yeah.
With again, I'm going to go back to what I said on our kickoff. I really thought that on the preview rather, when they did the three-way match with Ego and him and Wes Lee, I think they left money on the table not following up with a singles match with him and Wes Lee. And Wes Lee right now is in the midst of a heel run, so to speak. So have him do that. Have Wes Lee beat him, and maybe that nudges him the other way. It's like, hey, Wes Lee's being a dick, and it seems to be working out for him. Maybe it'll work for us, and then they go after the tag titles.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but I still need to see that match. Now that Trey Miguel is back, going back to other things that we didn't mention from Bound for Glory, Trey Miguel made his return from injury.
Yes.
In the Call Your Shot Gauntlet.
I actually texted that. I was like, oh, look, Trey's back. I wish he got more of a chance to get a welcome back than in the pre-show, but I get why they had him there.
Well, that's the, what do you want to call it? That's the only piece that's left undone from the Rascals split. Because when Wes Lee turned, he turned on both of them. And the only one that got any comeuppance was Zachary Wentz.
Yeah, and then he got his ass kicked. So there's too.
This is in the parking lot because it's the most dangerous place in the world. I do like the fact that they used the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. I know I'm bouncing back to the other show again.
No.
In the Gauntlet, they basically planted the seeds for a tag team feud between the Rascals and this new team of Jake Something and Hammerstone.
Yeah, and it felt like they only won the first match because Trey helped, and it was like, so having that hang over his head, like you said, they have the tag thing, but that story needs to be finished, or at least.
But if looking specifically on the TNA side of it, if Rascals are going to get back in tag contention, the what do you call it, the Giant and Jack story, Jack and the Beanstalk story, if they're going to go up against a team the size of Hammerstone and Jake Something, that's
they
pretty,
have
pretty
something
big that's what AEW thinks they have with Brian Cage and Discount Drew McIntyre.
And then they think they have the small guys of what's his name, Nick Wayne and Hook.
And Nick Wayne's mom, who's got it going on.
Yeah, maybe with a heel turn he can get more confidence. I believe Gorilla strong. I can't talk today. Too many edibles, too little sleep.
Christian
and I got
Cage
the shit kicked out of me
tape.
at the goddamn haunt. So I'm all sorts of bruised up and ready.
Yeah, you met all kinds of assholes this weekend.
I know. I didn't have to go to the hospital even though I got the crap kicked out of me, but Andrew Chase did. And,
Andre.
No, it's Andrew. I'm always going to say it, and it's going to stick with me forever because that's my original dub. So Andrew Chase, Andre Chase goes ahead and just can't get it done with Ridge Holland. Comes so close, gets him in the ambulance, but couldn't get it done. You think that Ridge is just no more? Is he, just about to get the win, and then catches the door, puts him down with a DDT, and then tosses Andre Chase inside, and that was it.
I do like the move that Ridge Holland has worked out, that what they're calling it, the Redeemer DDT, where he basically has him up in the cradle before dropping him. It's kind of like the old remember when Paige had the Rampage?
Yes.
And all the puns that came out of that.
No one wants to Rampage.
They did the catapult clothesline underneath the door. They had the ambulance that wasn't really an ambulance, kind of looked like the Ghostbusters car mixed with a hearse,
which was funny.
Which was an interesting thing. the whole match was flat. Yeah, you got the shit kicked out of you,
I
bro.
got more bruises on me and all that shit. I got the fucking shit walloped out of me.
It's
I
not
got
nice.
my arms and shit.
It's not
Yeah.
nice.
No, people suck.
You were volunteering to lose a casket
I was
match at that
volunteering, yeah, to help people with the hurricane and got the shit kicked out of me. It was not fun. But yeah, fucking I wanted more
flat,
from
man.
this.
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
I avoided the ambulance, but Andre didn't because he went ahead and just like what? What was the reason he couldn't get the victory here? He needed it. Like it wasn't even like a good hardcore match either to me. Like it just and on commentary they're like, this is the biggest singles victory of Ridge Holland's career. And if that's
Is
really
it,
the
though?
case, it didn't feel that way at all. The crowd was flat through the whole thing because I don't know. It's hard to get behind Chase in a serious way. Like they're always funny
Yeah.
and silly, and there's that like holy shit type. They're really going for the seriousness thing here.
Everything with the stretcher as well. Like they couldn't move the stretcher around. They had the locks on the wheels when they weren't supposed to have the locks on the wheels, and it didn't run on the mat when it was supposed to, and everything looked awkward in a match that was already flat. And he did one thing where he kind of jumped off of it. That
botch
did
after botch after
justify
botch.
it really being in the match. And you with a vehicle that I know I'm nitpicking here, so if anybody wants to come at me for nitpicking, that's fine. But like at the end of the day, you threw him in the back of the car without the stretcher anyway. And with a vehicle like that, you could have just said, "Hey, open up the hatch, throw him in." Like there didn't have, and it was like automated, so he was trying to figure out how to automate it, and it was just. It was like, I mean, I don't want to think about wrestling matches being practiced, but I mean, realistically, you could have like at least get used to the stretcher, what it feels like. Or
Yeah,
something.
no doubt about it.
It's the kind of wrestling match that could have used with some practicing, which I hate to say that because you want to pretend that it's real for 5 seconds.
Hope. Yeah, no doubt about it.
The kind of,
and that would be the thing. I wish.
And I'm going to do the same thing here that I did with the other pay-per-views recently. It's like you could have very easily left this out, put the Wesley Javon Evans match in there. The tag title match that we're getting this Tuesday could be here instead.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say I don't know really what they could have replaced this with. I have a few guesses, but yeah, like this just. That's the thing. When you have 5 matches only on the show, AEW does 90, and NXT's been doing 5, as where WWE's doing like 7 sometimes 5 for the PLE shows overseas. But it's been a 5 and done thing pretty much for a while with
I'll tell you what
NXT.
not everybody's going to agree with me on this. I'll tell you what you could have put in the place of this.
Yeah.
Put in the Heritage Cup match that we're getting on Tuesday.
With Lexis King.
With Charlie Dempsey and Lexis King, with, as we found out tonight, William Regal.
Right. That's a huge return, massive. We've not seen him. His son is there. Great thing. They're talking about fathers. Like, come on. This has got everything in there. Like, I'm excited. I pop big to see Regal come back. And I liked Regal's position in AEW being the head of the BCC. And then it was so weird how they had to end it because he was leaving. Unfortunately, they got
I wonder how he feels
story.
about them being skinheads now.
Yeah, the Ku Klux Combat Club at it again. But so this ambulance match was a real negative here. It didn't feel like it earned its place on the card, especially when there's so many other things that could have been. But
the impromptu match, we said it before, the impromptu match with Tatum Paxley and Wendy Chu and the casket match that we're going to get on Tuesday, that's not Halloween Havoc anymore, could have gone here.
Yeah.
Sorry,
but I didn't care for the Wendy Chu match either with Rosemary. Those 2 matches could have been replaced. So they had 2 matches on a 5-match card that really could have been ixnayed and 86th out of here.
Yep.
So it is unfortunate to have it that way.
Like you and I are 2 of the biggest NXT guys in the IWC. I don't see a whole lot of other people covering it as much as we do. But when it falls down, we're going to say it falls down.
Absolutely, and they succeeded with the next one. There wasn't, this wasn't known until the pre-show, but Kalani Jordan would be taking on all 3 members of Fatal Instinct, and they'd forever be going and having the gauntlet match. So Kalani Jordan takes on Jasmine Nix to start. Short match, like 4 minutes ish. Then quickly gets the angle slam and the 450 for the 3 count. JC Jane runs out, and wasn't much longer that, we get a quick little roll-up 3 count for her after a ducking elbow. She was like, a quick little reversal, but that's when JC Jane was pissed off. and she gets her with a couple of cheap shots, and now we had Fallon Henley run out, and she's going to start attacking right away. And I like the way they set this up. You know, they built it so the other two were fodder for Fallon. And they knew that,
and
but they were okay with it.
Backup for her as well.
Exactly.
Well, the way they announced it on the kickoff, when they said, okay, which one of you is going to be going for the title tonight? And Fallon said, okay, it's going to be me. And then when she picked her stipulation, it was gauntlet. Like, I'm your opponent, but you got to get through my partners to get to me.
Yes.
So the title...
And she could have lost. Anybody could have been champ before then, essentially. But yeah.
The wording of it was terrible. But basically, the title shot was Fallon's.
Yeah, and the match was great.
But she had partners.
Exactly, and the way they set it up for the pacing of it was great in the match itself, I'm saying, but the build-up was a little confusing. So I wish they had a little bit more clarification there.
It was good in the sense that they've sort of squared a circle that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks, where it's a group of, you know, they're calling themselves like the elder states people of NXT.
Yeah.
Sick of these new people, and it's really like, okay, you've only been here a couple of years yourself, so it's kind of a joke to begin with. But they have Jasmine Nix there, and it's like, okay, well, all the new people are bad except for this one that's following us. She's okay. But what it ends up being is she ends up being in the sideline a lot while JC and Fallon have matches or tag matches. By putting, what am I trying to say here? By making it the gauntlet match, you at least gave her a chance to get in the ring. Even if she was the first one to take the first bullet, like, she was at least in the match.
Yeah, exactly. So the formatting,
because they were trying to kind of making her feel like a sidekick in a booking sense.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. But I feel like what they did here worked. It was logical. You thought that Kalani was basically going to rinse and repeat what she did to Jasmine. So she goes for the 450, but Fallon gets her knees up, gets the little reversal there, and I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't it. Like, she's going to do something, you know, or what are we going to see here? And actually, I was quite surprised of how it worked out. And, you know, I did not immediately assume that we were going to get a title change, but she follows it up with her big kick and gets the pin, and that was it. And Fallon Henley's your new NXT Women's North American Champion. She was trying to talk, but then we had the return of the debut of Zaria. Yeah, okay. I thought it was Zaria, but I've seen quite a few different things online. So Zaria's there, and she pretty much lays everybody out and destroys Fatal Influence. They get laid out, and that's the end of that.
Kills Fallon with an F5 after she hit one of the other ones with a spear. So it's combination Goldberg, Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and that was kind of the thing too with Kalani Jordan. I felt like she was done with her NXT title reign, as you know, for the North American title, because she's another one, and like, you kind of did everything you had to with this title. You fought the best of the challengers. You've defended successfully a bunch. Now it's time for her to probably go for a rematch, then move on. You know, but I kind of hope she's done with FI sooner than later, because I think they could be on to different things with Fallon, and I think that it's probably going to be some type of civil unrest between the three, and this title will lead to a breakup, but maybe they'll do something more original.
I think if this is where they're going to have Delta/Zaria, I think they want to save it from seeming like Kalani Jordan, who they clearly see something in, not being fodder for the new person.
Yeah.
So they have her go out in such a way that basically she had a match, she had another match, and then she had a 3-on-1 match, and that's why she lost her belt. Mm-hmm. And it's now on a heel, and now the big group of heels can be fodder like they were here, so that this new person can look great. And then you can unseat Fallon Henley, and it's fine. And Fallon Henley hasn't had a title ever until now, other than the tag title. So it's kind of a little bit of recognition for Fallon Henley that's kind of overdue, and it's a way that Kalani Jordan doesn't go up against Zaria and just looks like she gets eaten for lunch. I think everybody gets a little bit of... It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's keeping anybody in the situation from totally dying. I would predict, because they announced that her proper debut match is going to be this coming Tuesday.
Yeah.
I would predict that it's probably going to be against Jasmine Nix.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of people said that the ladies' tag match was their match of the night. I went ahead and I checked on Twitter. They had a poll with 100,000 results here, or 10,000 results here. Excuse me. I can read, no commas. 30% of the vote goes to Tony D, Obafemi. 11% of the vote there goes to Ridge and Andre, surprisingly enough. 4% for Trick, 0 for Fatal Influences match, and a whopping 56% of the vote going for Roxanne and Cora taking on Julia and Stephanie Vacker. So, Vakur, however you want to end up saying it. And then, of course, we had the final match, Bud. I know went a lot longer than we planned on, but we had to get into all of it. Lots to cover here for both shows this weekend, and you and I, we covered every inch, but we got Trick Williams defending against All Ego Ethan Page. And my God, this was a pretty damn good match overall. I like what they gave us here for the most part. The Ego's Edge through the table was great. That looked like one hell of a spot to take. They did quite well with what they were going for, and I like that Trick successfully defended the title by finally going to that, not dark place as they want to call it, but he took all the grit he had, and Paige had already kicked him in the balls, so now Paige is going to hit him with the ring steps and kind of sandwich him concerto style with both ring steps. And what does he do? He gets low blowed. That's right. Ego Ethan Page's balls are destroyed by Trick Williams' forearm.
Ego's face when he gets hurt is priceless.
So great. That ball hit, he made it look like it was the most legitimate pain in the world. So that's when Trick hits him with the knee, pins him, whoop that Trick. Devil's Playground wasn't really too much of an effect.
I will say they had a similar moment. We all talked about. Why can't I fucking think? At Bad Blood in the Hell in the Cell match when Drew went for the Claymore and he missed and he sort of like fucked up his tailbone on the edge of the stairs.
Edge of the stairs, yeah.
He had a very similar moment here where I think he was supposed to be dropped on the flat of the stairs and he fell into the V.
Yes.
And I'm like, if that wrapped around your hips as you were going down, you're dislocating your back there. It from a different angle, it looks like his feet hit first and sort of like guided his fall. But the way it was initially shot, good for them, honestly. Yeah. But the way it was shot made it look like he fell right into the vice, into the void, if you want to say that.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh, if that
we got
actually happened the way it looks, he's not getting up.
We got Miss Kitty gifts. I'm trying to see if all these gifts, they have one with Miss Kitty, and when she flashes, they have Ego's face, but it shows the nudity, so I can't show it on stream. But it's funny. So when Miss Kitty shows her tatas, you see Ego's ball cell from tonight. It's that face edited in, so it's a hell of a gif. I can't play it on stream, but that's great. That's the stuff you love about Twitter, you know, when people get creative in that regard. Yeah, I was happy with this match. I like the title defense. That was good to see. And then Ego goes ahead and beats the hell out of him afterwards with Ridge Holland coming in, and they end up working together, but the Savior from Busted Open, Bubba Ray Dudley, comes in, beating the heels, clearing the ring. Trick gets to his feet, and they both, held their ground, and we got the executive producers to come up, and they closed the show. We got a little Kai run, and that was it. So Halloween Havoc, 2 not-so-great matches that should have been something else. 3 really good to great matches. Overall, this felt more like a 7.5-ish out of 10 if I had to give it a number. But I like what they did here. We're going to get a little bit more from Paige and Trick, which I'm okay with in the form of a tag match. After that, though, who do you want to see who do you want to see Trick, defend the title against? Do you see it going just straight to Ridge Holland, or are we going to get anybody else after that? Is that why they had Ridge win and look successful tonight against Andrew,
I don't know who I want his next big feud to be against. I go back and forth on the Oba thing. As I said before, it is a match I want to see. I don't necessarily know whether I want it to be for the title. I'd kind of like to have because when is the next? They didn't announce the next pay-per-view, which is what they usually do. And I haven't heard about them doing Deadline this year, which is really unfortunate because I like the Iron Survivor match. But that's not till December, so there might still be time. But if we got 2 matches to kill, or 2 months, I should say, to kill before the next pay-per-view, or we're waiting until next year, you could have a run of a couple of people that have no business getting in a title picture, just taking their shot, and Trick kind of sitting back and just playing like the working champion, the defending champion.
Yeah, I only have 3 shows coming up: Crown Jewel, Survivor Series, and Main Event. That's all I see, and those are all Raw, SmackDown joint shows. So,
and Main Event isn't even a pay-per-view.
No, but it's being treated.
They're claiming that it's going to be treated like a pay-per-view, but it's going to have commercials, so it's not a pay-per-view. But no, honestly, I'd rather see have him come out and be the guy like Cody did with Kevin Owens and say, hey, there's somebody kicking around here that I've had my eye on, and guess what? And they points out like Josh Alexander or somebody is like, why don't I give you a shot tonight? Or have somebody else that doesn't necessarily deserve to be in the title picture, but can have a one-off, like anybody's got a puncher's chance kind of match. Like have him defend against Shawn Spears for a night. Have him defend against Lexis King or Charlie Dempsey, just to give us something new and different, and do the whole like, here's your fighting champion. And at the end of one of those matches, whoever your next big challenger is comes out, whether it is Ridge Holland, which isn't super exciting to me, but whatever.
Yeah, but it is something, and that's the thing. Obafemi, like you said before, could be something. I don't know if I want him in the hardcore, in the heavyweight title, the main title picture. But if I think back to when Stand and Deliver, when he faced Dijak and Briggs there in that kind of match, like he could certainly be a
we haven't seen Briggs in a while.
No,
didn't Briggs go over to Japan to do something?
Honestly, I am struggling to keep up at this point. There's so many people doing so many things that it's like, hey, we haven't seen this guy in a while. I wonder what's going on.
But that's kind of awesome, though. I'm still at the stage where that's kind of awesome, because WWE didn't used to ever let them do shit like that.
Yeah, he played UMass, and it's from my area, so
but Josh Briggs comes back and says, "Oh, everybody forgot about me." And Trick's like, "Well, I didn't forget about you. Why don't you step up, boy?"
Yeah,
like that. Like, do a couple of weeks of stuff like that. If you still had a Dijak kicking around, like Dijak Trick would be fun.
Would be great.
Like I say, once Charlie Dempsey is out of the Heritage Cup thing, which is why I'm almost tempted to say give it to Lexis King.
Yeah, and Lexis King would be a great thing, and having Regal be with him as like the father mentor, since his father's not around. There's a lot they can say with this shit, Spaz.
And the elephant in the room is like, yeah, your dad, you're managing my opponent. Thanks for that.
Could be crazy, could be great. I'm telling you, overall, I had a great time watching tonight. And folks, if you are around this Saturday, I don't know if Spaz will join me, but I'll be live, not for the review, but for the watch along of this weekend's Crown Jewel pay-per-view, because there's usually not much to review or say, so I'll more than likely just be doing a watch along with you crazy bastards. We'll have some fun and hang out if everything goes according to plan. But I'll set up that live stream. You guys will know, will be alerted about it soon enough. But Spaz, I kid out. Thank you enough for hanging out with me today, watching Halloween Havoc. Do you have any other thoughts you want to get to before we get out of here?
Just that Halloween Havoc is the pay-per-view that can give us matches like this, and it's okay.
Yeah.
If this had been a standard pay-per-view, I'd be a lot harder on it. But it's along with Bound for Glory as well, with a couple of the spooky things. Like, it's the gimmick. It's the gimmick show.
Yes,
it's the gimmick show. I would have loved some more of the spook. Like,
if they were doing this shit on Stand and Deliver, we'd be like, oh my god, they're nuts. But fitting spooky and kooky with eerie time. I think my
only complaint is they didn't go in with spooky. They just went in with gimmick matches. They didn't have Shotzi hosting, which I was surprised by. Gigi Dolan did the open. We didn't really touch on that.
No,
but I
that
thought
was
she
good.
did really good. She
looks great.
She's
obviously
in that same genre. I don't know what she's doing physically, because she hasn't wrestled in a while.
A real long time, it feels like.
But I remember her being injured at some point. I don't know if that's still the case or not. Yeah, I would have loved to have some of the spookier characters. Like, if she wasn't with AEW, this is the perfect kind of show for somebody like Abaddon to show up on. They did the backstage stuff with the Boogeyman, which was just some fun Halloween stuff, which is fine. Would have loved to see Wendy Chu on the show. Would have loved to see Tatum Paxley doing something more than just popping out of a box.
Yeah, no doubt about it. For people that didn't see, this is how Gigi opened up the night, so that's why we're saying, yes, please. I mean,
God,
fantastic way to start this spooky show. Scary.
One thing that came up
scary.
on another show that I was watching.
Haunting.
I'm scared.
The ghost in my pants is.
I got a tingle in my dingle. Anyways, one of the things that was mentioned on the Wrestling for Life guys in their chat is apparently, as of next year, this isn't an NXT event anymore.
That we've heard be kicked around the rumor mill. I'm all for it if they bring it to the main roster and still do some stuff with NXT. Because it might give a chance to do some kooky spooky on the main roster, too. So I'd be excited to see that.
It's true. But we said earlier on tonight that there's certain stuff that really works because it's TNA. There's certain stuff that really works because it's NXT. Halloween Havoc is one of those things that I think on the main roster would be... Like, it's ridiculous. We love it because it's ridiculous, but you would have people in the broader audience not being as generous.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think if they do it on the main roster next year and it gets that kind of pushback, not only do they not do it on the main roster again, but it takes it off the table for the NXT fans as well. So they might be shooting themselves in the foot with that.
You're not crazy. I'm still thinking about Gigi Dolan that time she got kicked in the face. You know, when she went through the ding dong hello door.
Oh my God!
When Gigi got kicked by JC when they had the whole breakup angle and.
Because they had Bailey there for a night to do
ding dong
hello. Yeah.
So. I'm telling you.
Something.
It was. And guess what? This show was something as well. But I appreciate you being here, my good man. I know we went longer with TNA talk, but we had to address a lot. There was a lot to go over and go with. So, Spaz, tell them where they can find you for a change.
Well, before I told them where to find me, I will say over on my channel, I'm hoping to steal Jake twice again this week because we've got the NXT 2300 show to preview as well as Crown Jewel. And I'll say the same thing here that I say on my channel. I understand that a lot of people are against the Crown Jewel shows. I get why. I do my best to separate it from the political side of things and just treat it like a show.
If you want to just wrestling if we can. Yeah. And I understand why Punk isn't going and he's having his insecure mental struggles now versus any other time, but
right. No, but if you're not tuning in for the Crown Jewel stuff because the Saudi stuff is not up your street, 100% understand. Please do come and find us. I'm going to make sure it's a separate podcast when we talk about the ECW NXT show because that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun as well. Looks like we're getting Trick and Bubba Ray versus All Ego, Ethan Page, and Rich Holland, and we're definitely getting... I'm going to forget who it is now. Jada Parker and Lola Vice with Dawn Marie as a special guest referee.
Which is awesome to have her come back.
Apparently it's sold really well, so that'll be hopefully after this week's NXT we'll have more to add to that card other than just our speculation. But you can find all of that by going on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and any other place you want to look or listen to stuff. And putting in Spaz Phoenix Podcast. I've got Jake over there making me sound like I know what I'm doing, so thank you for that. Find me on X at Spaz Phoenix, and occasionally I live here now.
That's right. You find him here. You guys can hit the like button, subscribe down below. Thank you all for hanging out. You can go ahead and check me out on the Joe Cronin Show. Shout out to Joe. I don't know if he's live tonight. He was supposed to be going live, but hopefully I get to catch up with him soon. And shout out to all you sexy bastards in the chat. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Shout out to Liz as well. Make sure you check out her Twitch stream. She'll be giving away those $25 gift cards this week just in time for Christmas shopping. If you want to go ahead and maybe spoil yourself.
Oh, God, Christmas is coming.
Right? Hit the description box down below to make sure you subscribe to Spaz. We have new episodes at least every Thursday or Friday of the State of Wrestling. And sometimes, like you said, we do more. We cram it in there. Guys, thank you. We'll try and be live this Saturday for the watch-along. That's right, Crown Jewel. Saudi blood feud. We'll see what's happening and what goes on this weekend. Who's the champion of champions? Is it Cody Rhodes or Gunther? Is it Liv Morgan or Nia Fat? We don't know, but we're going to find out. Thank you, guys. Happy Halloween. Stay sexy, stay spooky, and on